Chapter 891. Xia Yuan put away his smile and said seriously, "The Ling family's ambition is not small. The key is that they know." Ding Meng's interest was piqued. "What do you mean?" Xia Yuan put his hands behind his back and paced back and forth in the room. "There are indeed all kinds of wonderful energy sources in the universe, but their existence is one thing, and knowing about them is another. I've only heard about the divine light energy and the legends of the divine light martial artists in recent years. I know that you, Ding Meng, also control the divine light energy, but you might not know that the Ling family knew about it before we did." Ding Meng said, "How can you tell?" Xia Yuan looked at him. "You've worked for the Starbao Corporation before. You should know about the curved mirror technology they're working on, right?" Ding Meng said, "I heard that this is a technology project that the Federation government subcontracted to them for research and development." Xia Yuan said, "This project was established many years ago. If I remember correctly, it should have been more than half a century ago. At the time, the Starbao Corporation, Shenghao Corporation, and Tianheng Corporation were fighting fiercely. In the end, the Starbao Corporation took the lead, and it was not something that one person or a few people could develop. It required the efforts of several generations to realize." Ding Meng and the others listened quietly. Xia Yuan continued, "Actually, the biggest use of the curved mirror technology is not to accurately transmit long-distance information, but to use a powerful energy source to sense other energy sources. To put it bluntly, it makes it easier to discover the inverse source crystal and the new energy source. Ling Xingqi and Dai Dai are about the same age, and Dai Dai has many enhancing treasures here to help her cultivate. But how did Ling Xingqi cultivate to such a high level in just 20 to 30 years? Not to mention that she was busy with various corporation affairs in outer space. She rarely had time to cultivate." Ding Meng hesitated and said, "Old man, you mean that the Ling family came into contact with the new energy source before we did?" Xia Yuan said seriously, "The reason is the curved mirror technology." Ding Meng and the other two immediately understood. Chu Jing had been instructed by the higher-ups of the Federation, which meant that Ling Zhixing had learned about the new energy source from the higher-ups. Furthermore, the Ling family had known about the existence of the divine light energy source for more than half a century. Perhaps the higher-ups of the Federation had known about it even earlier. Of course, that level involved the president or the cabinet. This kind of analysis was too shocking, and it was impossible for Xia Yuan to say it personally. However, Xia Yuan was the sect leader of the Rainbow family, and as one of the top explorers of the Federation, this analysis was infinitely close to the truth. Ding Meng suddenly felt a little confused, but he also felt that Xia Yuan's seemingly irrelevant words seemed to be hinting at something. Unexpectedly, Xia Yuan changed the topic. He patted Eisendale's shoulder and said, "Dai Dai, as the younger generation, don't be lazy. There are no shortcuts to martial arts. If there really is, then traveling is the best way to practice." "I will remember, Grandpa," Eisendale replied obediently. Xia Yuan then looked at Ding Meng and said, "You guys have also come to the Holy Planet. What are your plans?" Eisendale quickly said, "Grandpa, the Galactic War Carnival Storm Gathering is the 10th one this year. We all want to participate." Xia Yuan smiled. "It's not a bad thing to participate. I think many old monsters will appear this year. It will be a good opportunity for you guys to learn." Eisendale was a little unhappy. "Grandpa, look at what you're saying. It's as if we will be eliminated halfway." Xia Yuan smiled. "Dai Dai, I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. If an old man like me signs up, it will be difficult for you to enter the top 20. Therefore, I won't join the fun." Eisendale would never believe such a thing. "Really?" Ji Chinxue also found it hard to believe. "Does the Holy Grail Federation really have so many experts?" Xia Yuan smiled. "That's why I said you guys are still young. Do you guys usually think that the experts are in those big groups and sects?" Ji Chinxue did not answer, but the expression on his face showed that he agreed. At least, the beta group that he used to be in was like this. Xia Yuan said, "You're all wrong. The truly strong experts are often unknown because you're not on the same level. It's normal that you don't know about them. After all, There are actually more experts on the Empire side. The Federation's vitality was greatly damaged by the war 100 years ago, but the Empire has been operating steadily. Those old monsters who have cultivated for hundreds or even hundreds of years will probably come out this time, and those forces hidden in the dark will also make a move. Ding Ming suddenly said, "For example, the Hidden Front?" Xia Ziyuan was also a little surprised. "You met the people from the Hidden Front?" Ding Ming nodded without batting an eyelid. "I've met them before. They give me the feeling that they are quite powerful." Xia Ziyuan said, "With your strength, it's inevitable that you'll have to deal with them. This organization has existed for thousands of years and naturally has its reasons for existing. However, it is not the most powerful." Ji Chenxue was also surprised. "Is there an organization stronger than the Hidden Front?" Xia Ziyuan smiled. "Of course there is, but that is not something that you young people should worry about. What you need to do now is to cultivate well. Since you're going to participate in the storm gathering, you have to prepare well for it." Ding Ming said decisively. "Grandpa, I came to the Holy Planet this time not only to visit you, but also to visit Master Lin Kejia from the Federation." Xia Ziyuan was stunned. "Why do you want to visit her?" Isendale explained, "Grandpa, Ding Ming and Miss Ji have invested in their friend's company. They want to do energy research. Can you show them the way?" If this request had been made by someone else, it would have probably been rejected. However, Ding Ming was no longer an outsider. It was very likely that he was his great-grandson-in-law. Moreover, this great-grandson-in-law was very likely to achieve great things in the future. He was the symbol of the Rainbow family. Xia Ziyuan smiled. "All right, I still have to give face to this old man, Lin Kejia. Where do you plan to go?" Ding Ming said, "It would be best if it was within the next few days." Xia Ziyuan said, "I will contact her in a moment. You could go directly to her research center tomorrow." Ding Ming was overjoyed. "Thank you very much, Grandpa." After that, Ding Ming and Ji Chenxue helped Xia Ziyuan appraise 4 or 5 items, as well as some collectibles. It was not until evening came that Ding Ming and Ji Chenxue said goodbye to Xia Ziyuan. The Rainbow family's transport boat sent them directly to the Azure Sea and Clear Sky hotel in the city. This was a famous scenic hotel in Saint Splendor City. It was located in the center of the city and had 1,000 floors, overlooking the beautiful scenery of the city. This time, Ding Ming did not share a room with Ji Chenxue. After getting a single room, he turned on his wrist device and contacted Xinjie through the Divine Aerospace ship's GPS chip. Currently, Xinjie was at the border of the Empire, so the real-time image could not be synthesized. The two could only talk through voice. "Why would you think of Lin Kejia's research center?" Xinjie felt strange after listening to his description. "I don't understand the cultivation of martial artists like you. However, based on Ji Chenxue's visit route, the possibility of the Starry Rainbow Corporation's Frost Building is higher." Ding Ming was puzzled. "Why is that?" Xinjie explained. "Any form of energy has wave-particle duality, and divine light energy is no exception. Ji Chenxue's divine light necklace undoubtedly absorbed divine light energy. It is built on the foundation of waves. You can think of the necklace as a high-level radar, and it undoubtedly captured the signal. The Star Rainbow Group's headquarters must have an energy development organization. My judgment is that there is a high probability that she encountered this signal." Ding Ming said, "That's reasonable, but don't forget that Lin Kejia is the authority that specializes in servers. The energy consumption of the latest spatial network server is simply too huge. The research center may also have a huge reserve of energy. The necklace may have sensed it." Xinjie pondered for a moment before saying, "If you are really going to the research center tomorrow, I don't recommend that you and Ji Chenxue go alone." "Why?" Ding Ming was stunned. Xinjie said, "She is a real top authority, and you two are pure idiotic rookies in the field of professional knowledge. I think that if you go, she won't be interested in talking to you. Instead, you will waste a huge favor from Master Xia. It's better to bring 1 or 2 professionals with you. Only then will she be willing to talk to you." Ding Ming was speechless. "Where do you want me to find professionals in the middle of the night?" Xinjie laughed. Actually, you have two friends who can come in handy, and they are now in the capital of Saint Brilliance. Ding Ming hurriedly asked, "Who are they?" Xings said, "Dr. Shuiyin and Senior Ren Tianlan." Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. "Aunt Shuiyin is a doctor, not an energy expert. What's the use of her going?" "Huh." Xinge laughed mercilessly. "That's why I said that you're an idiot rookie. Lin Kejia isn't just an authority on energy. She's a data master who's proficient in all fields. It can be said that she's proficient in all fields except for a few unpopular professions. She's proficient in all fields. This person's medical skills are superb, and she's also highly specialized in medicine. 100 years ago, during the Devouring Realm War, she was on the opposing side. She's a staunch supporter of Dr. Zhu Lixian. Dr. Shuiyin is still alive to this day, so she's a senior to her. She's someone who deserves respect. If you go with Dr. Shuiyin, at least there won't be an awkward silence." Ding Ming immediately gave him a thumbs up. "You are the best. You even know such secret information." Xings said, "Don't underestimate a data guru. I estimate that for a top authority like Lin Kejia, her brain is like dozens of smart computers. Her computing speed, knowledge reserves, and command analysis are all first class. She's at least a senior warlock." Ding Ming was stunned. "Can a non-combat profession cultivate telekinesis?" Xings said, "Of course. Recently, I feel that my telekinesis is about to awaken, let alone Lin Kejia. If she is an application type or fusion type telekinesis, then her combat ability will not be weak. However, I have heard of the Shaolin Technological Research Institute. That place is a bit special. You should be careful along the way." "What's special about it?" Ding Ming was curious again. Xing laughed. "You will know when you go tomorrow." Chapter 892. The next morning, the Rainbow family's transport boat brought Shuiyin and Ren Tianlan to the lobby of the Azure Sea and Clear Sky Hotel. It had been many years since Ding Ming had last seen his two seniors. Shuiyin and Ren Tianlan gave Ding Ming the impression that they were in good health. It was obvious that they were living comfortably in the capital. Ding Ming could even sense that Ren Tianlan was about to break through to become a war monarch. "Ani Shui, Elder Run, long time no see." Ding Ming took the initiative to approach them. Ren Tianlan laughed heartily. "Ah, Ding Ming, we missed you so much. You've really made us proud. I didn't expect you to have done so many amazing things in the past 10 years. It was easy for them to know about Ding Ming's movements because Shuiyin and Ming Yin had always kept in touch. Shuiyin was very concerned about Xiao Wei and the others. Shuiyin smiled and said, "Ding Ming, you've finally come to the capital." Ding Ming scratched his head in embarrassment. "Ani Shui, I'm sorry to have caused you so much trouble." Shuiyin smiled and said, "Don't say that. It's our honor to be able to share some of your burden." After a round of greetings and introductions, Shuiyin and Ren Tianlan did not show any surprise to Jichin Shui. What had these two seniors not experienced in their lives? They maintained an appropriate distance and courtesy toward this goddess of the empire. The transport boat quickly took off from the hotel's helipad and headed east. Only then did Ding Ming find out that Kobayashi's research institute wasn't in the capital city, nor was it in the outskirts. Instead, it was on an island in the east. It was a full 6,000 kilometers away from Saint Splendor City. As soon as they set off from the coastline, Ding Ming realized that there were armed spaceships constantly guiding the transport boat. They would change after a certain distance. There were also small multi-purpose spaceships following them on the surface and underwater. The Skynet space station in space locked its quantum radar directly onto the transport boat. It was obvious that it was monitoring them. Shuiyin explained, "Xiaolin's Research Institute is one of the Federation's S-class restricted military zones. It's usually heavily guarded, and it's forbidden to fly without a special pass. Ding Ming, we're also basking in the glory of old Master Xia. Without his permission, Lin Kejia himself would not have allowed us to pass." S-class restricted military zone? Ding Ming was puzzled. This level was already very high. In other words, it was in no man's land, a place where ordinary people were forbidden to exist. Ren Tianlan smiled and said, part of the Federation's Kajia server cluster is set up in the Research Institute. The main server is the Federal Empire's Star Wars League server. At the same time, a node of the International Space Network is also set up in the Research Institute. In other words, we've come to the safest place in the entire Federation. Dingmeng quickly saw it. Above the boundless azure ocean, there was a small jade-green island that was like a pearl embedded in the center of the ocean, and it seemed mysterious and moving. The area of the island was not considered large. Other than the airport, there was only an S-shaped, 5-story exquisite technological building entrenched in the shade. This was the pinnacle temple in the eyes of all the data masters of the Federal Empire. Those who could work in this building were all the elites of the elites, the powerhouses of the powerhouses. Today's weather was very bright. The sun shone on the airport, and 3 people were already standing by the runway to welcome them. Before they could see the people clearly, Ding Meng and Ji Qinshue's faces turned ugly. Their telekinesis had created a black blind zone in their vision. Xi and Jia did not make random predictions. There was a very powerful applied telekinesis warlock waiting for them on the ground. The spaceship came to a stop, and the first person to greet them was a professional woman who was dressed simply and energetically. She was wearing a white shirt and black trousers, a pair of high-tech low-light glasses on the bridge of her nose, and her hair was tied up high. She was not a stunning beauty, but her temperament was extremely outstanding. One look, and one could tell that she was specialized in academic research. In her capable spirit, she had a quiet, intellectual, and unique impression. This person was Lin Kejia, because the blind zone was created by her. If one did not see it with one's own eyes, it would be hard to believe that this was a woman more than 100 years old. Sister Shui, Senior Rin. Lin Kejia's eyes were a little red. I always thought that all of you had left. After half a century, I only found out yesterday that all of you were still alive. Xu Yin also sighed. If we had not met Ding Meng back then, we would not have been able to meet again in this lifetime. Lin Kejia calmed her emotions and then carefully sized up Ding Meng. Her eyes were full of admiration. The younger generation will surpass us in time. I didn't expect that our Holy Grail Federation would have such a talented young man like you. Ding Meng could only lower his head. Hello, Senior Lin. Lin Kejia smiled. Don't call me Senior. Just call me Lin Kejia. Ding Meng said modestly. I wouldn't dare. Lin Kejia smiled playfully. Ding Meng, I've heard a lot about you. You're very impressive. Welcome to the Research Institute as a guest. While Lin Kejia and Ding Meng were chatting, Ji Qinshui was secretly observing the man and woman beside Lin Kejia. They both looked quite young. The female assistant did not look out of the ordinary, but the male assistant gave Ji Qinshui a shock. He could not see through the man in a suit. If he could not see through him, it meant that his strength was not below his own. Ji Qinshui scanned his surroundings again. When he was here, he did not see such a strong security force on this island. As they talked, Lin Kejia led the group into the interior of the Research Institute. Actually, there was nothing special about the Research Institute. After entering through the door on the first floor, they were greeted by a business lobby that was similar to a lobby. The area was very small, and visitors would basically stop here. Because the other floors of the Research Institute were strictly confidential, Lin Kejia still led everyone upstairs. This time, Ji Qinshui was excluded. After all, she was still a citizen of the Empire and used to be the president of Beidou. With her status, it was not appropriate for her to go upstairs for a tour. The second floor was a multi-purpose accommodation floor. It was a bit like a hotel. It was the resting area for the staff and temporary rooms for the visitors. The third floor was the information center. It was decorated in a style similar to the command center of a starship. There were 35 staff members here, and all of them were authoritative elites in their respective fields. Their job was to process all kinds of information, so there was nothing out of the ordinary about it. The fourth and fifth floors were connected together. There was a super impressive server installed here. Just its size alone took up 2 floors of space, which was enough to show how big it was. Lin Kejia introduced The basic information about the Saint Planet's population, organizations, operations, regions, public transportation, energy sources, and other basic information is basically all gathered here. The Star Wars Carnival that will be held this year is also in this server. Dingming, I heard that you're going to participate as well. I'm really looking forward to your highlight moment, oh? Dingming asked curiously why. Lin Kejia smiled and said, I can tell you something in private. I don't know how many mystery gift boxes the government has prepared this year, but I know that among those gifts, there are things that will be very helpful to Origin ability users and warlocks. I see that you're also a warlock, so your ranking won't be low. Ding Meng smiled and said, You make me want to participate right away. Although he was smiling, he was not in a good mood. This was because he had discovered problem. He did not know what kind of rare materials this research facility was built with. His telekinetic vision could not even see through the steel plates around him, and he could not analyze the material. This was because both telekinetic waves and telekinetic strings would be reflected as soon as they came into contact with the steel plates. Of course, this could be explained as the research facility being kept secret. As such, he decided to tell the truth. Senior Lin, I just used my applied vision to investigate a bit, and I discovered that telekinesis cannot be used in this building. Why is that? Lin Kajia smiled slightly. The research facility is a sizable database for the Federation government, after all, so it has to be kept secret. This building is made of a special metal from the Frogman Nation. Telekinesis, perception, detection, and even magic poisons from the devouring world are all blocked and blocked. Ding Ming said, So that's how it is. After touring the entire floor, the group returned to the first floor. Next, it was mainly Xu Yin and Lin Kejia catching up with each other. The day passed quickly, and an exquisite dinner was prepared in the restaurant on the second floor. Lin Kejia warmly invited Xu Yin to stay for dinner. According to the plan, they were going to stay the night and leave early the next morning. Since there was nothing to be gained, Ding Ming was not in the mood to enjoy the food. After dinner, he returned to the room that had been prepared for him on the second floor. This room was the standard guest room for all three cabins. Ding Ming and Ji Chinxue each had their own room, but now that Ji Chinxue had come to his room, the two of them naturally had to exchange their opinions. You still haven't found anything? Ji Chinxue asked. Ding Ming sat on the sofa and shook his head. Ji Chinxue sighed and said, Maybe we made a mistake. The problem might be with Sheng, Hao, and Xinghong. Ding Ming pondered and said, No, I keep feeling that there's something wrong with this place. Ji Chinxue said, What's the problem? Ding Ming said, Although the Super Kaijia server here is related to the Star Wars League, the security is so tight. If I want to get the internal data of the server, what should I do? Ji Chinxue laughed and said, Maybe only a top hacker like Xinjia can do it. Ding Ming smiled bitterly and said, With such a large number of Kaijia servers and a data master like Lin Kejia himself, the defense of the space network here must be extremely powerful. I'm guessing that even if 10 hackers like Brother Jia worked together, they wouldn't be able to get in. Ji Chinxue agreed. That's true. Ding Ming suddenly raised his head and said, But this doesn't explain why the telekinetic waves can't even penetrate the walls of the building. Ji Chinxue's eyes lit up. You mean there's something hidden here? Ding Ming's eyes were like torches. But during the day, we toured the entire building and didn't find anything strange. Ji Chinxue finally understood. The problem wasn't on the surface, but underground. Because even if you had a magical telekinetic vision and could see the buildings on the surface with your naked eyes, you wouldn't be able to see the specific situation underground. The Super Kaijia server on the 4th or 5th floor was so large. Where was the energy it needed to operate? Where is its power source? The answer was obvious. It came from deep underground. Chapter 893. In the silent night, the sea breeze gently hit the beach. The coconut trees rustled, and there was a beautiful sound of insects chirping in the grass. This kind of night on an island made people feel good, and it was easy to fall asleep. Ji Chinxue went back to her room and took a comfortable hot shower. After she enjoyed some red wine and pastries, she lay quietly on the soft bed and fell asleep. She hadn't been so relaxed in a long time. Just as she was having a beautiful dream, her wristband suddenly vibrated and woke her up. The call was from Ding Ming. There were only 2 words on the screen. Open the door. If someone else were to disturb her in the middle of the night, it might be a man who had designs on her. However, she knew that Ding Ming was a mature and prudent man. He was also a warrior of divine light. He would never do something so boring. After the door opened, Ding Ming slipped in like a thief. He sat on the sofa with a leisurely look on his face. What's wrong? Ji Chinxue was confused. It was 2:45 in the morning. Ding Ming picked up the bottle of red wine on the coffee table and took a sip. Then he choked and coughed violently. Ji Chinxue laughed and said, "It's not like you don't have any red wine in the freezer in your room." There was a hint of dissatisfaction in his words. "Why were you disturbing my sleep in the middle of the night?" Ding Ming smacked his lips and said, "I'm just a country bumpkin. I've never drunk such high-end stuff. I can't drink it." Ji Chinxue sat on the sofa opposite him. She was wearing a soft, white V-neck nightgown. The divine light necklace around her neck was very exquisite. At the same time, her snow-white skin under the necklace was very eye-catching. Plus, her fair legs were exposed. Her elegant sitting posture was very seductive. Ding Ming couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. Ji Chinxue didn't mind. She was used to such looks when she was in the Empire. However, at this time, Ding Ming glanced at the switch beside the bed. The light in the room went out with a swoosh. Ji Chinxue finally felt a little uneasy. "What are you doing?" Ding Ming stretched out a finger. 10 minutes left. Ji Chinxue was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Ding Ming said, "I just received a message from Little Rascal and the others. An unmarked transport ship took off from the coastline and is heading towards the research institute. It will arrive here in 10 minutes. Ji Chinxue immediately understood what was going on. An unmarked spaceship was too thought-provoking. Furthermore, it was flying over at this time. This was definitely not normal. Ding Ming had already stood up and walked to the window. He turned the crystal glass back to normal. "You must not use your telekinesis now. Otherwise, we will be exposed." Ji Chinxue also came to Ding Ming's side and quietly observed the outside. The light source of the spaceport was switched on 24 hours a day, so it looked like an empty football field at night. The staff of the Research Institute had a very regular schedule. They worked during the day and rested at night. Now that it was late at night, almost everyone would be asleep at this time. However, Ji Chinxue soon saw a figure appear in the spaceport's passageway. This person was Lin Kajia's female assistant. The female assistant looked up at the sky, obviously waiting for someone. In less than 10 minutes, a sparkling light appeared in the night sky. The light gradually grew bigger and bigger, and sure enough, it looked like a spaceship. The spaceship was no ordinary spaceship. Its shape was very exquisite. At a glance, it was about the size of a large flying car. Most importantly, when it landed, the bottom of the spaceship was spewing out crystal flames, but it didn't make a single sound. This was definitely a high-tech product. No wonder it attracted the attention of the divine Aero spaceship. After the connecting cabin opened, a large group of people walked out. They were all wearing black suits and large sunglasses. Without using their telekinesis, it was difficult to see their faces clearly. The female assistant quickly stepped forward. The man in the black suit didn't speak at all. The entourage behind him walked up with a metal box. After opening it, he carefully took out an exquisite crystal card. The female assistant turned on her wristwatch and carefully scanned the card with a ray. Neither side said a word. It was like a silent pantomime. Ding Ming and Ding Ming saw clearly that the indicator light on the female assistant's wristwatch had turned green. Then, the female assistant bowed respectfully and made a gesture of invitation. The group of men in black suits disappeared into the Research Institute building like ghosts. At this moment, Ding Ming couldn't stay still. He turned his head and said, "Do you want to do it? Or should I?" Ji Chinxue said, "You should do it. Your telekinesis is stronger than mine." The two of them quickly established a telepathic link. Meanwhile, Ding Ming controlled a large number of telekinesis dots to scan the passageways of the 5 floors. This time, it was slightly more difficult to scan the passageways because the dots didn't touch the walls as much as possible to avoid being rebounded. Ji Chenxue also saw very clearly through Ding Ming's link. After the group of people entered the elevator on the 1st floor, they didn't come out again. However, the elevator doors from the 2nd to the 5th floor were never opened. They've gone underground, Ji Chenxue deduced. Ding Ming said, "It seems that there's something wrong with this research institute." Ji Chenxue said decisively, "Let's go down too." Ding Ming pondered for a moment. "With your status, it's still not appropriate for you to go down there. I'll go. If I don't come back by morning, you and Aunt Shuiyan will leave by boat. You can wait for me at the hotel." Ji Chenxue was a little hesitant. "This is a restricted military area. Is that okay?" Ding Ming sighed. "I don't think we can find any useful clues from an open and above-board interview. When it comes to sneaking around, I'm still better than you." Ji Chenxue smiled. "That's true," Ding Ming said again. "Can you lend me your necklace this time? I want to use it to sense energy." Ji Chenxue showed a hesitant expression, but after thinking about it, he still took off the necklace from his neck. "Be careful. Lin Kejia's male assistant is very strong. I don't know how many experts like him are hiding on this island. I have a feeling that the security forces of this restricted military area are not as simple as they seem." Ji Chenxue quickly tied the divine light necklace to Ding Ming's neck. Ding Ming noticed the divine light imprint on his face and immediately had a strange reaction. A connection was quickly established between the two of them, and a large amount of telepathic information entered his brain. Soon, Ji Chenxue was dumbfounded. In addition to the various ways to use the necklace, the telepathic information also stored a large number of personal photos of Ji Chenxue. Most of them were cool selfies that would make one's blood boil. It was obvious that Ji Chenxue usually dressed like an elegant noble in public, but every woman loved beauty and took many sexy selfies in private. Any one of these pictures of stockings, nets, and uniforms would probably cause a sensation in the entire Federal Empire. Who knew that a goddess could also have such a charming side? The key was that Ji Chenxue had personally tied the necklace for Ding Ming. The two of them were less than half a meter apart, and Ji Chenxue's breath was almost on Ding Ming's face. Ding Ming instantly felt that the heat on his face was at least 500,000 degrees Celsius. "Well," Ding Ming was embarrassed. "Sorry, I didn't expect you to keep these in the necklace." Ji Chenxue's face also blushed, which was rare. "It's okay if you see it, but don't spread it." The iron-willed straight man's brain had no circuit. He was stubborn to the end. "Just delete these pictures. I don't think they're useful." "No," Ji Chenxue said coquettishly. "All my selfies over the years are stored in the necklace. It's safe to store them in the necklace. If you delete them, you'll destroy all my efforts." Her voice made Ding Ming feel that his bones had become lighter, and her breath was a little unbearable for him. More importantly, their posture was very ambiguous. Ding Ming decisively stepped back. "Okay, thank you for your trust. Wait for me to come back." With that, he disappeared with a swoosh. Obviously, he had used his super-fast movement skill to rush downstairs. Ji Chenxue also felt that her face was burning hot. It was like a young girl's secret being seen by a young man. She was extremely shy. As someone who had experienced a lot, this wonderful feeling was incredible. It was like the first intimate contact between lovers. Unfortunately, she had never experienced this before. Ding Ming had already flashed to the hall on the 1st floor. He had already cast the green spirit spell and activated the manipulation spell. Now, other than Lin Kejia himself, the staff of the Research Institute, the smart robot guards, and the various surveillance cameras would not be able to find him. After entering the elevator, Ding Ming decisively started the descent on the light and shadow panel. The panel did not indicate the basement level, and the elevator was completely sealed. He could not see what was outside. After descending for 5 minutes, the elevator doors opened. What appeared in front of him was a super spacious underground hall. 20 commendable servers were neatly arranged in 2 rows. Each of them was a huge silver sphere. The liquid metal on the surface was flowing slowly. The hall was full of light, and it was as bright as day. The problem was that there was no one here. Where was everyone? Where was the group of black suits? Ding Meng moved forward cautiously. He scanned his surroundings carefully. Other than the servers, there were various application cabins embedded in the walls. They were flashing with green light. Obviously, there was no one here. It turned out that the commendable servers on the 5th floor were just decorations. This was the core of the research institute. No, Ding Meng's mind was clearer at this moment. The energy consumption of a single server was huge. 20 servers would not be able to operate without an extremely strong power source. Now, the servers here were clearly operating. The real power source had not been found yet. At this moment, Ding Meng felt the mark on his face jump. The divine light necklace spread out a halo. This was clearly an energy response. This necklace actually had many uses. It was not just for energy storage. Ding Meng had seen clearly how to use it. The necklace had an automatic detection function. It was extremely sensitive to precious resources such as divine light energy, demon's energy, and red true elemental crystals. At the same time, it could also identify the Mao people, the demonic sky race, the AIG race, and the races of the 6 territories. Ji Chenxue had not been able to use these functions previously because he did not have enough divine light energy to activate these functions. Ding Meng thought for a moment. He gently pinched the pearl on the necklace and summoned the divine light singularity with his thumb. This was the command to activate the necklace. He wanted the singularity to identify the energy source, not to inject energy into the necklace. Chapter 894. Ding Meng's manipulation was indeed effective. This time, the divine light singularity did not materialize a cross-shaped star, but a firefly that flickered with green light. The singularity's ability was even more powerful. It could replace the necklace to perform better detection. The firefly flew left and right in front of him, while Ding Meng followed closely behind it. They came to the end of the hall. There were 5 huge closed alloy doors on the huge steel wall, but these doors were all closed. In the past, Ding Meng would have used a simple and crude method to melt these doors. However, he could not do so in this situation. It was very likely that he would trigger the alarm system of the Research Institute. The singularity came into play at this time. The firefly hovered at the 2nd door from the right. Ding Meng also narrowed his telekinesis vision to a range of 1 meter and observed carefully. Soon, he understood the singularity's hint. The micromolecules in the air and the molecular traces on the ground indicated that the group of black suits had entered through this door. However, there was a long LCD screen beside the door frame. This was an 18-digit dynamic sequence password lock. In other words, the correct password might change every minute. This kind of lock was usually used in extremely secret space military fortresses. He did not expect to see one here. What should he do? Ding Meng was almost an idiot when it came to the field of science and technology. He was a complete amateur when it came to things like deciphering passwords. At this moment, he was inside the Research Institute. If he used the wristband to contact the aerospace ship to request for backup, it would be a big problem because there was a chance that the location of the aerospace ship would be exposed. Just as he was having a headache, there was suddenly a crisp sound in the distance. Someone had come out of the elevator. He turned around and saw that it was the female assistant. He did not expect her to be behind him. Ding Meng quickly retracted the singularity and stood still. The assimilation technique was activated. Even if he stood in front of the female assistant, she would not be able to see him. However, to his disappointment, the female assistant did not choose the 2nd door from the right. Instead, she stood at the 1st door on the far left. There was a probe on the door that released a fiery red ray to scan her body. The system's voice said, "Authentication passed. You are allowed to enter." As expected, the alloy door opened and the female assistant walked in slowly. Ding Meng would never let go of such an opportunity, so he followed her quietly. After entering the door, he found that there was actually a shuttle ladder inside. The shuttle ladder was moving downwards at a very fast speed. The inside was also sealed, and there was no way to see the outside world. This time, the shuttle ladder actually descended for a full 20 minutes before it stopped. Ding Ming roughly calculated that they were probably tens of thousands of meters underground. The island and the research institute were just the tip of the iceberg on the surface of the sea, while the underground was another vast world. As soon as the door opened, Ding Ming finally saw the huge cubic space in front of him. The whole space was also filled with a huge Kaja server. Unlike the server on the upper floor, this spherical liquid metal body emitted a dazzling white light. It was connected by countless alloy pipes, and the pipes came from inside of the walls in all directions. As for the ground, there were hundreds of control panels and lighted screens. After the female assistant came in, she began to inspect the control panels one by one. It felt like she was doing routine work. Ding Ming ignored her because the connection between the necklace and the mark had strengthened. He could also see that the necklace was slowly producing holy light energy. The holy light energy was not pure, as if it had been diluted by some device, but its composition and waves were exactly the same as the glowing Kaja server. The source was here. Ding Ming came to this conclusion, but he quickly overturned his own judgment. Ji Chenxua definitely did not come here, but the tiny amount of energy he obtained was quite pure. This was probably not the end. Ding Ming walked in quietly. This floor was bigger than the previous one. At the end of the floor, there was no longer a password-protected door. Instead, it was a very primitive and heavy multi-element alloy door. Fortunately, it was not locked. In the middle of the door was a large ancient wheel that looked like the rudder of a ship. For such a design to appear in a place like this, the intention of the designer was very obvious. The thing inside was probably not related to intelligent technology, but purely a mechanical closing device. Ding Ming was not in a hurry to open the door. He patiently waited for the female assistant to finish inspecting the control panels. When the female assistant returned, he then grabbed the wheel. He did not know if he did not shake it, but when he shook it, he was shocked. Ding Ming found that when he casually turned it, the wheel did not move at all. Damn, the closing device inside was locked tight. At this time, even if it did not turn, the origin had to turn. It was not until Ding Ming completely turned the first point that the wheel was barely turned half a circle. What the hell was this? One of Ding Ming's origin points? What kind of concept was that? That was the origin energy index of a beginner-level warlord. In other words, even if someone with a strong reconnaissance ability found this place, they might not be able to open this door. What kind of secret was hidden in this research institute? As Ding Ming exerted force, the 10-meter-tall giant door was turned open with a creak, revealing a passage that was so dark that one could not even see one's own fingers. A cold wind mixed with the smell of rust blew in, giving one the feeling that this passage had been abandoned for many years. It made one shudder. This was very similar to the time when the Black Gold Base's experimental hall was opened. Pandora's box had been opened, and two things had been released at the same time. One was called Destruction, and the other was called Hope. The passage was very long, and it would take half an hour to walk. However, at the end of the passage was a relatively narrow space. It was a bit like the private training room of a dojo, surrounded by thick steel walls. Ding Ming suddenly stopped in his tracks. He had thought of many scenarios, but he had not expected this to happen. This was because the male assistant was standing quietly in the middle of the hall, as if he had been waiting for him for a long time. Even though he was wearing sunglasses, Ding Ming could still feel that the other party was staring at him like a tiger watching its prey. "Go back," the male assistant said coldly. Ding Ming said in a low voice, "If I go back now, I'm afraid it'll be too late." The male assistant said, "There's still time. It'll be dawn when we get back to the surface. You can still eat breakfast before leaving the research institute." Ding Ming laughed. "Do you think I'll go back?" The male assistant nodded. "I also know that you're someone who won't leave with just a few words." As he said this, Ding Ming had already made his preparations. The first 3 origin points in his body were already activated, and the temperature in the hall suddenly rose. Sure enough, the male assistant appeared in front of Ding Ming without any warning and threw an elbow at Ding Ming's face. With a loud smack, Ding Ming caught the elbow with one hand. "With your abilities, you're far from enough to make me go back." The male assistant suddenly straightened his arm and changed from an elbow punch to a straight punch. This change could be said to be very natural, but Ding Meng's palm was even faster. He had already caught the fist on the right side of his face. Bang! His fist ignited with white origin flames, and he threw a few punches at an extremely fast speed. Even the air was cracking and tearing. Ding Meng calmly parried the blows. No matter how fast or how ferocious the punches were, his palm would always be able to catch them just in time. The male assistant threw more than 20 punches at Ding Meng like a storm, but they did not even touch the corner of Ding Meng's clothes. Moreover, Ding Meng was only using his left hand to parry the blows. Judging from his casual movements, it was obvious that normal attacks were completely useless. The male assistant stopped attacking and took 2 steps back decisively. If you don't go back now, you'll lose your life here. Ding Meng smiled. If I really die here, then I'll accept my fate. The male assistant seemed to be taking a deep breath, but all of a sudden, he lightly threw out a punch. When this punch was thrown out, the surrounding space distorted and transformed. The fist was like a whirlpool that produced an endless suction force, sucking in everything around it. This was definitely not something that could be received with bare hands. As the huge whirlpool approached Ding Meng, the fist suddenly turned into an even larger white handprint. With a strong gust of wind, it sealed off Ding Meng's escape routes. Only then did Ding Meng's expression change. Qing Yi Divine Hand. He had seen this Federation's classic martial arts technique before. The Qing Yi Divine Hand's strength lay in its follow-up moves, so the best way to deal with it was to kill it in the cradle before it could fully display its strength. Ding Meng spread his arms, twisted his wrist, and swung his palm out. A formless wave of air crashed into the white handprint. With an earth-shattering boom, all the handprints, whirlpools, and force fields are destroyed by the shockwave. The male assistant was sent flying on the spot. The wave of air didn't stop there. After traveling for over 100 meters, it crashed into a steel wall. This steel wall was quite sturdy, but it only managed to carve out a 5-meter-wide hole. The male assistant was obviously heavily injured. He fell to the ground and clutched his chest. He looked at Ding Meng in horror. This person was simply a monster. His frail and small body actually contained such a huge amount of energy. Even the gust of wind was transparent. This proved that this person's martial arts technique had reached the pinnacle. What happened next shocked Ding Meng. The male assistant seemed to be unable to withstand the energy roiling in his body. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of energy. Ding Meng thought that he had spat out blood, but what he spat out was actually white energy. Then, with a whoosh, the male assistant turned into a beam of light. The beam of light quickly shrank until it disappeared. Ding Meng was dumbfounded. There were only 2 explanations for this situation. The first was that there was a teleportation device that transported the male assistant away. However, there was no teleportation device in this place. The second was that this space was not the real world, but virtual space. Could it be that he was inside the Kajia server? Another dot of light appeared in the air. The dot of light instantly expanded into a beam of light. A person walked out of the beam of light. This person was actually Lin Kajia. Ding Meng decided to use his telekinesis. As expected, a large blind spot appeared in his field of vision. The person who came was indeed Lin Kajia. However, with the way she appeared, it was likely that she was also a virtual character. Was this place a real space or a virtual space? Ding Meng realized that he couldn't tell. Chapter 895. Don't be nervous, Lin Kajia said calmly. You and I aren't enemies. Are you a real person or an illusion? Ding Meng asked suspiciously. Lin Kajia said, Are you referring to my assistant? I can tell you the truth. He's not a real person. He's an energy model. An energy model? This was the first time Ding Meng had heard of this concept. Lin Kajia explained, when the energy is too large, it can be gathered into a point or a space. After implanting an AI program, it can be cultivated into an energy model. That's why he looks like a real person and has the corresponding strength. Ding Meng found it difficult to understand these words. He changed his words and asked, Are we inside the Kajia server now? Lin Kajia said, this space is the real world, not the server's illusion. Ding Meng was completely confused. Then what is this place? Lin Kajia did not answer the question directly. Instead, he said slowly, 8 years ago, Ji Chinxue visited the Research Institute. But that time, she was on the island. The Kajia server was all rebooted at the time. It takes a minute to restart. During this time, a large amount of energy will be injected into the core. It's inevitable that there will be fluctuations. Ding Meng listened quietly. I inadvertently detected in the AI system that Ji Chinxue's necklace has a miraculous convergence with this energy. My judgment is that Ji Chinxue's necklace is not an ordinary item. It's some kind of energy-absorbing device. Lin Kajia explained calmly, but at the time there's only a minute. Ji Chinxue came here on behalf of the Empire, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. This explained why the necklace had absorbed the divine light energy 8 years ago. Lin Kajia continued, but 8 years later, old Master Xia sent a message saying that you and Ji Chinxue were coming to visit me. I knew then that the matter wasn't so simple. Ji Chinxue's necklace is now hanging around your neck. Ding Meng said, you knew that I would come here? Lin Kajia smiled. To be honest, I don't think anyone can find this place. But you're different. You're not an ordinary person. It's useless to hide. And it's even more useless to stop you. Didn't you just prove it? My assistant couldn't even take a single blow from you. Although he isn't a real person, the strength of the model shouldn't be underestimated. Ding Meng said coldly, so you're going to show yourself now? Lin Kajia said, I know you have a lot of questions in your mind. If I can answer them for you, I'll answer them for you. But if I can't answer them for you, then there's no answer. You may have to find the answers yourself. Ding Meng thought for a moment and said, who were the people in suits that landed on the island at 3 o'clock at night? Lin Kajia's expression didn't change. I don't know. Ding Meng was stunned. Lin Kajia said, I only know that they have the highest clearance. They come to the Institute every 6 months. Here, identity is not important. Clearance is the most important thing. They have clearance. As long as they pass the verification, the Institute will let them go. Ding Meng said, I came here on the first shuttle, but they took the 3rd shuttle. Lin Kajia said, yes. Ding Meng said, where does that shuttle lead to? Lin Kajia said, I don't know. I didn't go in because I don't have the clearance to pass the password. Ding Meng sighed. You're the top authority in the Federation. If you don't have the clearance, I can't think of anyone who does. Lin Kajia also sighed. I don't know who they are, but I've seen that kind of clearance before. It has to be signed by someone above the vice president level to take effect. At the same time, it's connected to the main AI system of the Federation government. The password is randomly generated for you by the AI system. Ding Meng said, it seems that you really haven't been in. Lin Kajia said, I don't have to lie to you because you saved the lives of Sister Shui and Mr. Rin. You also saved the offspring of Dr. Zhu and the others. Besides, I've heard a lot about you. That's why I said that we shouldn't be enemies, but friends. Ding Meng said, but you don't seem to know anything. Lin Kajia laughed. That's because you haven't asked a single thing that you should have asked, but you've asked a lot of things that you shouldn't have asked. Ding Meng's eyelids drooped. Is that so? Lin Kajia said, you've seen the facilities on the surface of the Research Institute. You've also seen the server cluster in the basement. You were able to find your way to this place, and you've also seen the central server cluster in the back. I think you should have some questions. Ding Meng hurriedly said, yes, there are so many wonderful servers. Where's the power source that supports them? Lin Kajia replied, I can answer you with certainty. They're the ones who provide the power source even deeper underground. They? Ding Meng frowned. Lin Kajia said, they're the group of people with the highest clearance. You've seen them. Ding Meng said, do you know about the divine light energy? I do. Lin Kajia nodded. Not only do I know about divine light technology, but I also know that you're a divine light martial artist. You must be wondering where the divine light energy for the central server cluster comes from. I can also answer you that I don't know. Ding Meng laughed bitterly. I don't know what to ask. If even the Federation's top data experts don't know, Then who else would know? Lin Kajia sighed softly. I don't know because I don't want to know. There are some things that you should understand. You'll find out sooner or later what you should know. Once you find out what you shouldn't know, I'm afraid it'll cause a lot of trouble. Ding Ming pondered for a moment and said, Can I understand it this way? In the depths of the research facility, there is a powerful energy source. Its energy is so large that it surpasses our imagination. Moreover, it includes the divine light. However, only a few people know about this place. Lin Kejia then said seriously, That's completely correct. Without the support of this source of energy, the research institute's many servers won't be able to function. Ding Meng said, So the research institute is the entrance? Lin Kejiao waved his hand and said, That's not accurate. The research institute is the entrance, but as far as I know, it's not the only entrance. Ding Meng's expression changed. Could it be that there are other entrances? Lin Kejia said, According to my calculations, there are at least 5 entrances. Ding Meng thought for a while and said, I'm afraid that each entrance requires a pass of the highest clearance to enter, right? And since there's divine light energy down there, then its entrance is not limited to the sacred planet. It could be in space, on a starship, or on another planet. But no matter where it is, it should be a restricted area of the Holy Grail Federation or a place that ordinary people can't reach. Lin Kejia gave him a look of approval. You're very smart. If you follow this train of thought, you've undoubtedly found the right path. Ding Meng said, The easiest way is to go down from your entrance. Lin Kejia sighed. Unfortunately, you don't have the clearance and password. Ding Meng said, I can still go down without the password. Lin Kejia said, I know that you're very powerful, but I advise you not to do that. Why? Ding Meng did not understand. Lin Kejia said, No matter which entrance you go down from, you can't go down from my entrance. That will bring about disastrous consequences. You, Sister Shui, Elder Run, and Jichin Shui were all personally recommended by Master Xia to be guests. It won't be good for anyone if something big happens. Besides, with your intelligence, you should know that it's very irrational to act rashly and alert the enemy. Ding Meng was silent. Of course, he knew the consequences. If he really melted down the 3rd shuttle ladder and forced his way down, it would undoubtedly trigger the alarm, which would then alert the Federation military and the higher-ups. It was not easy for him to clear his name as a wanted criminal. It would not be fun if he was wanted again. Last time it was a trick, but this time it was a real crime. There must be a very shocking secret buried underground. But why are you telling me? Ding Meng asked. Lin Kejia smiled. Because I have my own selfish motives. I also want to know what's hidden underground. Even a statistician like me is not allowed to access it, so I'm even more curious. Ding Meng smiled. Don't worry if one day I really go down there, and if I get any benefits, I won't forget you. Lin Kejia smiled. If you need any help, you can contact me at any time. As long as it's within my power, I will do my best to help you. Ding Meng said, Thanks. Lin Kejia said again, Actually, if you want to go down there, it's not like there's no way. Oh, Ding Meng's eyes lit up. What way? Lin Kejia said, It's still the same idea as before. Find another entrance. Ding Meng smiled bitterly. I'm afraid that's as difficult as ascending to heaven. Lin Kejia shook his head. I know that you have a partner called Xinjia. He's a very capable hacker. Many years ago, he unsealed the seal of the black handprint. Ding Meng asked curiously, What does that have to do with the entrance? Lin Kejia said, There's only one person in the world who can truly unseal the black handprint. That person is not Xinjia, but Grassroots Empire. With Grassroots Empire's extraordinary knowledge and ability, they must know where the entrance is and have a way to go down. Ding Meng asked tentatively, You know about Grassroots Empire? Lin Kejia sighed. That was many years ago. I met him once on the International Space Network. This person is amazing, omniscient, and omnipotent. If he doesn't know about it, then no one else knows about it, including the black handprint. Ding Meng was silent for a long time before he sighed sadly. Grassroots Empire has passed away more than 20 years ago. Passed away? Lin Kejia was stunned. He then sighed. The heavens are really jealous of geniuses. It seems that if you want to know about the other entrances, then you have to participate in the upcoming Battlecraft Carnival. Why? Ding Meng felt that this master's train of thought was really fast. Lin Kejia said, the Wind Cloud Carnival is highly valued by the upper echelons of the Federation, especially in recent years. This year's Wind Cloud Carnival will definitely receive unprecedented attention. The reason is simple. For the past half a century, the powerful experts of the Holy Grail Federation have all been roped in by the major corporations and sections. On the other hand, the government of the Federation doesn't have any capable people, because the upper echelons of the Federation can't afford the expensive resources of the corporations and sects to cultivate talents. Chapter 896. Ding Meng also agreed with Lin Kejia's analysis. The system of the Federation was completely different from that of the Empire. The power of the Empire was in the hands of the Chancellor and the Congress. The financial groups and sects all served them directly or indirectly. Therefore, the Chancellor's words had a lot of weight in the Empire, and they had to obey his orders. The Federation was the opposite. The Linda, Cambrian, Beauty, Happiness, Azure, Sunshine, and Holy Splendor had divided the power. Each of the star systems had a corresponding power structure and government officials. Normally, they would each take care of their own things. Only when there was a crisis or a public event would all the star systems unite to reach a consensus. For example, the Devouring World War. Of course, that was an exception. In other words, the upper echelons of the Federation government, where Holy Splendor was located, couldn't control a large financial group like Starbao at all. They were willing to offer all kinds of benefits to recruit those potential stocks and experts. You couldn't say that they were going against the upper echelons, right? To be honest, if it weren't for the grudge he had with the Ling sisters, Ding Meng would have been willing to stay in the Starbao Corporation and focus on developing. There, he would have been able to get whatever he wanted. Training resources, treasures of heaven and earth, individual training places, all kinds of armor, handy weapons, inverse source crystals, amplifiers. As long as he asked, there was no reason not to give him the transit string. Lin Kejia said with a serious face, as far as I know, the mysterious gifts of the three Phonian conventions are not things that the Federation government can take out. At least, with the level of technology of our human civilization, we can't make those things. If someone else said this, it would be debatable, but if it was Lin Kejia who said it, it was definitely an authoritative statement. Ding Meng hesitated and said, "Is it related to the underground world?" Lin Kejia said, "I can only say that the possibility is as high as 60%. The question is, where did they get these things from?" Ding Meng roughly understood her train of thought. Participating in the Star Wars Carnival, making a name for himself in the Storm Gathering, attracting the attention of the president's upper echelons, and entering that circle would undoubtedly be a big step closer to the truth. Lin Kejia said, "Actually, your personal situation is very suitable for you to participate in the Storm Gathering. Most people know that you had a falling out with Shenghao Xinghong. In other words, you are an expert in the wilderness. The higher-ups of the Federation are most interested in such people. The famous experts from the previous batches have not made any moves in the past 2 years. However, none of them have appeared on the list of major corporations or sections. This is something worth pondering." Ding Meng hesitated and said, "Is there a reason behind this?" Lin Kejia shook her head. "I don't know the deeper reason. I can only understand it from what I know. The current president of the Federation is also an extraordinary person. He has great foresight and views, and he places great importance on talents. 100 years after the Devouring Sector War, the Federation seems peaceful, but there are actually many problems. First, there is the North Star Empire. The Empire has been fighting in the fertile chalk star system every year, and they have a strong army. Most importantly, the Empire has plundered a considerable amount of resources from the fertile chalk star system. If I were the president, I would be envious too. Even if I can't send out the interstellar fleet, I can at least send a group of experts to plunder them." Ding Meng smiled bitterly and said, "That's true." Lin Kejia said, "Secondly, I heard that the immortal elemental king returned to the devouring realm a few years ago. This is an opponent that cannot be ignored. In the war 100 years ago, the Federation suffered such a great loss in the early stages of the war because they did not have any top-notch powerhouses." Ding Meng smiled bitterly and said, "I released the immortal Yuan Queen 6 years ago." Lin Kejia was stunned once again. She smiled bitterly and said, "I don't know what to say. If you have this kind of ability, you should have returned to the Federation a long time ago." Ding Meng said, "The situation back then was very serious. I can't explain it in a few words." Lin Kejia continued, "Putting aside the threat of the devouring world, the real underground forces in outer space have been a great threat to the Federation in recent years. The Black Handprint, Blue Lotus, Seven Kills, Gauss, and Hidden Front are all mysterious organizations. Whether it is the Federation or the Empire, their infiltration ability is very strong. These are not things that can be solved with just the power of the interstellar fleet. The President and the upper echelons need truly powerful individuals to help them share their burdens." Ding Meng said, "I understand. They're going to select experts from all walks of life at the Storm Gathering?" Lin Kejia said, "This is almost inevitable. The rewards for the Storm Gathering are too generous. If I were a combat occupation, I would have signed up. Besides, you're also running your own business. If your results at this Storm Gathering are impressive, your company and Ji Qinshua's company will also become famous." Ding Meng said, "It sounds like I have to attend this Storm Gathering no matter what." Lin Kejia said, "That's all I know. If you continue to investigate at my place, you won't be able to find anything. The longer you stay here, the more suspicious people will be. However, you don't have to feel regretful. In a while, I will send you a GPS chip from the Research Institute. You can pass it on to your friend Xingjia. If you have any technical problems in the future, you can contact me at any time." After saying this, Lin Kejia turned into light and slowly disappeared just like the male assistant. Ding Meng was somewhat helpless. He had finally found some clues, but now the clues could not be traced back to the Research Institute. It seemed like he could only go back first. When Ding Meng returned to the surface, the sky had just begun to brighten. After the group had breakfast, they were sent back to St. Splendor City by the Rainbow family's transport ship. Along the way, Ji Qinshu communicated with Ding Meng through telepathy. She also knew that Ding Meng's operation had not made any substantial progress that night. "What do you do next?" Ding Meng pondered and said, "Let's go back to Blue Pole Star City." Returning to the Azure Galaxy meant that they had to temporarily give up on the investigation of the underground entrance and focus on preparing for the 10th Storm Gathering of the Star Wars Carnival. "What about you? What do you plan to do next?" Ding Meng asked in return. Ji Qinshu chuckled softly. "I can't go back to the Imperium for the time being. I've always been the opening guest of the Star Wars Carnival. This time, there's no way the two nations will invite me. I don't have the face to sign up for the competition either. I might as well go to Blue Pole Star City and see how the construction of the industry I invested in is going. If I lose money, I might have to find a job." Ding Meng laughed and said, "I don't think any company can afford to hire you." Ji Qinshu smiled and said, "That's all the more reason for me to go and see my investment." In the outskirts of the western district of Blue Pole Star City, the 4-story retro building of the General Machinery Research Institute was still there. However, on the open space next to it, a group of 20-story buildings had been built. The main building looked like an hourglass and was very aesthetically pleasing. With it as the center, it was surrounded by the Machinery Research Institute, long and narrow factories, square warehouses, exquisite residential areas, and a magnificent hangar square. Everything was like a town that was both full of modern technology and pure natural ecology. It was both natural and beautiful. Indeed, its scale couldn't be compared to Shanghai's Starry Rainbow skyline branch, but at the very least, it had the embryonic form. That hourglass-like central main building had a row of rainbow-colored glittering words projected from the ceiling by the crystal projector, being the International Trade Group. There was nothing unusual about it just by looking at it. On the hangar, a lot of flying shuttles were taking off and landing. In the square further away, a few small and medium-sized carriers were docked, indicating that business had come to their door. It had been 15 days since Ding Meng and Ji Chenxue returned to Blue Pole Star City. Looking at the view in front of him, Ji Chenxue could not help but exclaim, "CEO Lan, you are much more efficient than I thought. It's only been a month, and we've already seen some results." Ding Meng's eyelids were drooping. "You've burned so much of my money. How can not be fast?" Ji Chenxue was amused. "So, my money is not money? As a matter of fact, it's already quite impressive that you can make something like this with such a small amount of money. Let's go in and take a look." After landing on the hangar, Ding Meng saw a familiar figure commanding the various flying units to take off and descend. He could not help but walk over quickly. "Captain, why are you here?" This person was Silman. He was wearing a staff uniform and holding a scanner. "Ah, Brother Ding, you're back." Ding Meng sized him up. Silman smiled. "Misty and Annie Yao asked us to move away from planet KV-303 and come and work at the Bingy Group. Dai Yi and Yao Manru had always had a good relationship with the refugees of planet KV-303. It was reasonable for them to ask everyone to move here." Salman said, "Brother, you've been gone for several years every time. This time, you finally have your own business. Let's go, I'll show you around." Actually, there was no need for him to show him around. Ding Meng's psychic vision had already spread out and swept through the Bingy Group's territory. There was a medical station near the hangar, which was exactly the same as Green Arrow Spaceport. Ding Meng saw many familiar faces when he entered. "Big Brother Ding Meng, it's Big Brother Ding Meng. Big Brother Ding Meng is back. Everyone, don't be so busy. Big Brother Ding Meng is here." This 5-story building was filled with refugees from Green Arrow. When someone shouted, they all gathered around, their faces full of surprise and excitement. Ding Meng was also a little surprised. "Xiao Wei, you become a doctor?" Among the crowd, Xiao Wei was wearing a white coat and medical armor. He was obviously a doctor. He was still as shy as before. "Big Brother Ding, everyone here is a doctor. We've already studied medicine for 5 years." Ding Meng said, "Why don't I see Ya Qiao?" Xiao Wei pointed at a majestic building that looked like a church in the distance. "Deshanzi is practicing martial arts. A Qiao is accompanying him to the training center over there. Many people who have a chance of awakening are there." Ding Meng smiled bitterly. Is Lan Bing planning to turn this place into a future city? Ji Chenxue agreed. "Look, there's a medical station, spaceport, training center, business district, and logistics center. I even saw a convenience store over there. It's almost like a mini supermarket." Xiao Wei quickly added, "There's also a restaurant. A new restaurant called Old Jiangxiao Noodles opened 2 days ago. They're promoting it as a century-old restaurant. The taste is pretty good. Big Brother Ding Meng. Do you want me to bring you there to try it?" Hearing this name, Ding Meng's heart skipped a beat. He said decisively, "Let's go, we have to try it." Chapter 897. Old Jiangxiao Noodles was located at a crossroad in the food district. To be able to get such a prime location meant that the owner was quite capable. The noodle shop was still in the Greenfield Immortal style, but the chef was no longer Zheng Ming, and Sun Shirling was nowhere to be seen. Looking at the endless stream of customers in the shop, Ding Meng thought of many people. Time really flew. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 years had passed. The last time he ate Zheng Ming's eel noodles was in Blue Pole Star City, and he was preparing to leave for Linda's Immortal Weaver planet. Ding Meng found a table and sat down. He saw 3 familiar faces and could not help but laugh. "Ah, you guys are here too." However, the 3 people immediately stood up in shock. They looked at him with obvious fear. "You? Ding Meng?" Ding Meng waved casually. "Hello, long time no see." These 3 people were none other than Dongfang Lian, Yongbang, and Mu Hua, the 3 playboys. Back when Yongbang was pursuing Dai Yi, he had made things difficult for Ding Meng. He had also opposed Ding Meng at Starlight University. However, seeing the 3 of them here, Ding Meng did not feel anything. Instead, he thought that they were a little cute. Are you eating noodles? Do you want me to cook noodles for you? Ding Meng greeted them happily. Forget it. I'll treat you. Ding Meng, what are you doing here? Mu Hua did not forget to put on the airs of a rich young master. Forget it. I'll pay for your table's bill. Really? Ding Meng's eyes lit up. Eating for free had always been his forte. What's the big deal? Mu Hua looked relaxed. There were 3 people at the other table: Ding Meng, Ji Qinxue, and Xiao Wei. Ji Qinxue's art of assimilation was always on, so it was easy for others to overlook her. Xiao Wei was obviously an ordinary person. How much could these 3 eat? Ding Meng immediately turned to the waiter. Give me 300 big bowls of eel noodles, with a portion of eel for each bowl. The table next to us will pay. Dongfang Lian and Yong Bang immediately looked at Mu Hua as if they were looking at a monkey. Who told you to be pretentious? She can make you cry just by eating noodles. 300 extra large bowls of eel noodles are 5 to 6,000 star coins. What are you guys doing here? Ding Meng came over. Ding Meng was no longer the refugee they looked down on. At least, Yongbang knew that Ding Meng was the one who ruined the Dai family's marriage 7 years ago. Moreover, he heard that the Dai family did not dare to trouble Ding Meng after the incident. At his level, this was all he knew, but it was enough. If the Dai family could not afford to offend someone, the Yong family might not be able to either. Therefore, he did not dare to be rude to Ding Meng and the other 2. Ding Meng quickly learned from the 3 that the Bingy Group had established business relationships with many large companies in Blue Pole Star City. They were involved in a wide range of business, from space transportation and energy development to recycling, metal, and department stores. They did everything, and they were favored by many parties. Therefore, the 3 of them had come to discuss cooperation with the Bingy Group on behalf of their respective families. Is the Bingy Group that popular? Ding Meng was confused. Dongfang Lian said, of course. Even old Master Lang thinks highly of them. Yong Bang muttered, even the Research Institute of Miss Dai's mother is working with them. Seeing his distracted expression, Ding Meng could not help but laugh. Are you still thinking about Miss Dai? Yong Bang said impatiently. What does it have to do with you? You don't look like a bachelor yet, do you? Huh? Ding Meng was even more amused. You are really infatuated, but don't think about it. Miss Dai is not ordinary now. Yong Bang obviously misunderstood and sneered. Nonsense. Miss Dai is now the vice president of the Bingy Group. She is no longer a student. Do you think she will still be bewitched by you? Ding Meng did not want to argue with him. He turned and walked to his table because the noodles were already being served. When it came to eating, if Ding Meng claimed to be second, no one would dare to claim to be first. Xiao Wei had not even finished his first bowl of noodles, but Ding Meng had already finished 100 bowls of noodles. The speed at which the waiter collected the bowls was not as fast as his eating speed. 300 bowls of noodles were finished in less than 10 minutes. There was not even a drop of soup left. The bottom of the bowl was licked white. They're paying the bill. Ding Meng rubbed his stomach in satisfaction and pointed at Mu Hua and the others. The waiter replied politely, hello, sir. You don't have to pay the bill. You can enjoy free meals at all of Old Zhang's eel noodles branches. This was personally instructed by the boss. You are a lifetime VIP gold member of the Old Zhang Group. F***CK, there was such a good thing. Zheng Ming and Sun Shirling were not bad. Eating 300 bowls of noodles and being able to enjoy free meals. Mu Hua and the other's eyes widened. F***CK, this is not fair. Ding Meng stood up. Let's go to the Bingy Group and see if Miss Dai is here. Yong Bang's eyes turned red. No, let's go too. This kid is talking as if the Bingy Group is owned by his family. Do you think we can go just because he says so? The reception hall on the first floor of the main building was very fashionable. It was decorated in the minimalist style. It was obvious that the technology level of this group was not low. The reception area at the front desk was like a magnificent toll booth. A row of young ladies in cheongsams stood up respectfully. Welcome. Yong Bang rushed up. We're here to discuss cooperation with Miss Dai E. The hostess said, do you have an appointment? No. Yong Bang was a little embarrassed. The situation was different now. Dai, he was the vice president of the Bingy Group. She was not someone you could meet just because you wanted to. The hostess said, "I'm very sorry. Please register an appointment first. President Dai will arrange the meeting time according to the schedule." At this time, Muhua found that Ding Ming, this guy, was led by another hostess, casually walking towards the elevator in the distance. "Does he have an appointment?" Muhua asked hurriedly. The hostess was very patient. "Oh, that Mr. Ting doesn't need an appointment. He can enter and leave the Bingy Group freely." "Why?" Yongbang was not convinced. The hostess said, "Because President Dai personally instructed us to do so." Yongbang and the others looked at each other. This time, they were completely speechless. Comparisons were odious. The president's office of the Bingy Group was on the 18th floor. Just like when Ding Meng first walked into the Shenghao Group branch, a beautiful white-collar lady was sitting in front of a large office desk. Her eyebrows were slightly furrowed, as if she was analyzing the data on the screen. This beauty was obviously Lan Bing. But Lan Bing was not alone. Across the table sat a beautiful woman in uniform. Her appearance was not inferior to Lan Bing. "Ah, busy man, you are finally back." Ding Meng was stunned again. "Iran, when did you come here?" This beauty was Dumo's wife, Liang Iran. Ding Meng suddenly understood why the new company had such a strange name. Lan Bing and Liang Iran's names each had a character in it. Wasn't it Bingy? No matter how he looked at it, it looked like the name of a beverage brand. "Don't feel awkward," Lan Bing explained with a smile. "You should really thank your first wife. In such a short time, she has established so many connections." The president of the Bingy Group was Lan Bing. After the merger with Liang Iran's Ebao company, Liang Iran became the executive president, and Dai Yi became the vice president. The three beauties were the top echelons of the group. It seemed that the outside world could not guess the background of this new company. At least, they could not tell that it was Ding Meng's nest. Ding Meng learned that during the month he was away, Dai Yi had persuaded Liang Iran to join the company. This meant that the Red Moon Group was involved. Secondly, Du Mo and Du Peixing had military backgrounds. With the Red Moon Group and a military background, it was enough to prevent Shenghao, Xinghong from making a fuss. Dai Yi also made use of the relationship between Ding Meng and the Lang family to get old Master Lang to come forward and quickly establish cooperation with the major groups in Blue Pole Star City. This large piece of land for the company was arranged by old Master Lang. The government of Blue Pole Star City had given a lot of green lights. Otherwise, it would not have been possible to build it in such a short time. Liang Iran's Ebao company controlled many hawker channels in outer space. Now that she had joined the company, it was basically a legal whitewash for Long Feiyu and the others. Long Feiyu also had a relationship with Fu Zhonghui, so he naturally knew that the big boss behind the Bingy Group was Ding Meng. This made him work even harder. What a joke. Ding Meng was someone who could do whatever he wanted on planet Beidou. Everyone could not wait to curry favor with him. In fact, Ding Meng did not even need to come forward. Junling was now on planet Beidou. It was said that the Hubel's family treated her as a guest of honor and treated her with good food and drinks every day. In addition, Irene and Su Qianqian's family's Rainbow Gold Group and Su's manufacturing group were also tied to the Bingy Group through Dai Yi. In short, the new company had established inextricable connections with the major forces in Blue Pole Star City. The relationships involved were also linked. Ding Meng spread his hands and said, "I'm a layman when it comes to doing business. You guys are still the best." Liang Iran laughed and said, "Ha, Ding Meng, you're really cool as a hands-off shopkeeper." Ding Meng's eyelids drooped. "But our company seems to have more women than men. I haven't seen many male colleagues on my way here. They're all women." Lan Bing stared at him. "You think there aren't enough women, right?" "Ahem." Ding Meng coughed dryly. "How can that be?" "I'm just saying." Ding Meng quickly established a telepathic link and transmitted the situation in the capital to Lan Bing via telepathy. Lan Bing said decisively, "Actually, Iran and I were just discussing this Star Wars carnival. Our company has to participate this time as well. This is a very good opportunity for publicity, but not everyone has to participate. It's enough for a portion of us to participate. Why? Ding Ming did not understand. Lan Bing explained, for example, Miss Liang's situation is not allowed. That's true. Ding Ming agreed. If Water Droplet was exposed to the public, the Federation's military and police would immediately be alerted. Lan Bing said, everyone will be coming back over the next few days. It's a good opportunity for us to sign up together. We'll sign up under the company's name, but you can sign up as an individual. You can sign up for the company after the results are out. Ding Ming asked curiously, what's the difference? Lan Bing said, if you sign up under the company's name, you don't need to be checked. But if you sign up as an individual, you'll need to be checked. Chapter 898. The registration for the Galactic Combat Carnival was different from the Galactic Combat League. The main reason was that the officials had to consider the privacy of the various experts. Thus, the special server for the Galactic Combat Carnival was operated independently. It did not conduct any physical tests on the registrants, nor did it extract any basic information about the registrants. In other words, as long as you were anywhere in the Federal Empire, once you entered the induction cabin and connected to the International Space Network, the system would guide you to a special area. At this moment, Ding Ming was looking at such a scene. He seemed to be standing on a sky-blue lake. The surface of the lake was as bright as a mirror, and in the distance, there was a fairyland city that looked like a fairy tale. Above the city, there were 5 big words that made people fascinated: Galactic Combat Carnival. The gentle and beautiful female voice of the system quickly sounded, welcome to the 10th Galactic Combat Carnival. You are visitor number 3239-898-6455. Please create a new ID or import your Galactic Combat League ID. Ding Ming could not help but be shocked. There was still a month before the carnival began, and there were already more than 30 billion people who had registered. This influence was indeed great. It was creating an ID again. Ding Ming was mentally prepared this time. Back in the Empire's testing server, it was extremely difficult to come up with a name. In the end, he came up with something like, "What should I do?" which made people want to vomit blood. This time, no matter what, he had to come up with a cool name. Little Li, Flying Dagger. Ding Ming said casually. The system voice said, sorry, this nickname has already been registered. Thinking about it, it made sense. There were more than 30 billion names before, so this kind of classic name must have already been registered. Ding Ming said again, my idol is Border Town, Longzi. The system voice said, sorry, this nickname has already been registered. Damn, even this kind of name has been registered. Border Town Longzi, do you have that many fans? Ding Ming continued, Kong Hu Fu Pen comes dead dog. The system voice said, sorry, this nickname has already been. No way, such a cool and outstanding name has also been taken. Ding Ming was not satisfied. I'm playing the mud in the northeast. The system voice said, sorry, this nickname is already. Wow, such a long and awesome name. There are actually people fighting over it. I'm convinced. Ding Ming said angrily. Then what should we do? The system voice said, sorry, that nickname. Ding Ming was completely convinced. Even a name had been stolen. What else could he say? Why don't we just do something simpler? What if it works? Ding Ming suddenly had an idea. Crazy Explosion. The system voice said, congratulations. Your nickname, Crazy Explosion, has been successfully registered. Haha, this name actually succeeded. That's fierce. One look, and you can tell that it's a good name that will drive the opponent crazy. What a great name. With this move of mine, I'm going to turn the opponent crazy. The system voice said, character creation successful. Please confirm your physical characteristics. A shadow of himself immediately appeared in front of his eyes. This time, he could not reveal his true self. Ding Ming thought for a moment and began to remodel his appearance. First of all, his height had to be adjusted. Secondly, his appearance had to be completely changed. His eyes, nose, hairstyle, and everything else had to be completely changed. Gender can be changed? Then should I make myself look like a woman to play with? Forget it, I don't want to be a transsexual. If I give myself a heroic name, but a woman's face, people will definitely be suspicious. Under Ding Meng's ferocious control, the image of crazy explosion was quickly confirmed. This was a 1.8 m tall man with a thin face that carried a hint of coldness. His slanted face made him less conspicuous. This was what Ding Meng wanted, to be low-key. The system voice said, "Please choose and purchase your clothes. If you don't purchase them, the system will default to the character wearing free clothes." Why'd I have to buy clothes? Ding Meng was a bit puzzled. Then let's try the free ones. Sure enough, the shadow wore new clothes. Ding Meng wanted to vomit blood. Could these even be called clothes? Crazy Explosion was only wearing a pair of underpants that seemed to be made of grass leaves. It only covered the important parts, and the rest of his body was completely naked. Let's see what the price is. Ding Meng decisively changed his mind. He had to establish a glorious image. With a swoosh, countless pictures popped up in front of his eyes. There were so many that it was a dizzying sight. Upon closer inspection, there were more than 100,000 types of clothes to choose from. The most classic was the Steel Legion Galactic Armor, which cost 300 star coins. Next was the standard white training clothes, which cost 50 star coins. There were also the more common men's suits, which cost 150 star coins. As he continued looking, Ding Meng's eyes were dazzled. There were really all kinds of strange things. There were suits, armor, shirts, coats, windbreakers, sweaters. These were all considered normal. The most amazing thing was that there were some so-called colorful suits. Su Wenxiang's classic scarf windbreaker, Yuan Shikai's flashy sword presidential suit, Ning Saichen's scholar suit, Chu Liuxiang's classic folding fan suit, Fahai's cassock and staff combination suit, Genghis Khan's Mongolian archer horse suit. Each of these suits cost more than 1,000 star coins. The most expensive one, Zhu Beiji's nine-toothed rake, actually cost 28,888 star coins. It was even more expensive than clothes in the real world. Furthermore, this was only for men, who knew how much more expensive it would be for women. After choosing for a long time, Ding Meng still felt a headache coming on. It was really difficult to choose because he wanted to look flashy and low-key at the same time. After much deliberation, he finally chose the Raging Flame Revival Ancient costume. The name sounded awesome, but the actual style was just a striped long-sleeve gray shirt and a pair of loose blue pants. Combined with his parted hair, he really shouldn't have named it Crazy Explosion, but Sauce Explosion. However, this outfit was cheap, only 65 star coins. Ding Meng didn't have much money in his bag, so he had to be stingy if he could. But then again, Star Wars Carnival had already earned enough money in this clothing selection segment. With more than 30 billion contestants, even if they bought the cheapest training clothes, it would still be 1.5 billion star coins. The prize pool would definitely not be less than this number. Next was the competition schedule. Since the contestants were counted in the hundreds of millions, the competition schedule was divided into several stages. The first stage was the preliminaries, which were some basic evaluations. The officials had also clearly stated that the minimum requirement to register was to be a War Reverent level Origin ability user. This minimum requirement was no doubt prepared for those contestants who wanted to attract attention. Many people had the mentality of becoming an internet celebrity. I might not be the strongest, but as long as I left a deep impression on others and increased the viewership, then I would become famous overnight. Thus, this preliminaries would definitely eliminate the majority of the contestants. Next would be the Road to Survival, Speedy Advance, Adventure Park, Storm Palace, Summit Showdown, and Battle of the Kings. The Battle of the Kings would be the final Storm Gatherings finals, which would determine who the champion of the carnival would belong to. After taking a closer look at the rules, Ding Meng understood what was going on. The 7 stages of the Storm Gathering were not simply a competition of strength. In fact, it was a test of each expert's ability in all aspects. It required very good strategies and tactics. In the end, Ding Meng paid the registration fee of 100 star coins and logged out of the International Space Network. He also left the censor cabin. He was currently on the 19th floor of the Bingy building. This floor was equivalent to a private residence, and only the higher-ups could enter. Almost everyone had their own room. Ding Meng's room was definitely designed by Xinjia. The living room was palm-sized, The bathroom was small, and there was no training room. This was because he did not need a training room to train. However, the dining room was surprisingly large, and there were 5 crystal freezers. It was obvious that there was a lot of delicious food inside. Of course, every time he prepared to eat, he would not be able to have a moment of silence, because Ji Chinchua knocked on the door and entered. Seeing the dazzling array of dishes on the dining room table, Ji Chinchua could not help but laugh. You should participate in an event like the Foodie Carnival. Ding Meng immediately called out to her. Do you want to sit down and eat together? Ji Chinchua hurriedly waved her hand. No, thanks. I just chatted with the 2 CEOs and familiarized myself with the company. I feel that their thinking is very clear. I'm a little regretful that I only invested 200 billion. Ding Meng said, Are you planning to increase your investment? Ji Chinchua laughed. Where would I get that much money? However, I have many friends in the Federation. I can borrow money to invest. With the Bingi Group's foundation, they would definitely continue to invest in the hundreds of billions. Even if they invested billions or tens of billions, there would not be a single blip. Who will you borrow money from? Ding Meng was curious. Ji Chinchua smiled mysteriously. Of course, that's my business. As long as you make a name for yourself at the storm gathering, I guarantee that the investment will be in place. Ding Meng laughed. Why don't you just become a consultant in name? Ji Zong is now officially our Bingi Group's venture capital consultant. Lan Bing's voice came from outside. Ding Meng said, Damn, your actions are really fast. It was already evening. Lan Bing took off her jacket and walked in leisurely. Little sister Ji Zong received a large batch of rare materials from Beidou and is about to return to Blue Pole Star City. I don't plan to sell this batch of goods. I'll store it and let Ji Zong contact the seller. Ding Meng's eyelids drooped. I'm a layman in business. It's more suitable for me to eat peacefully. Ji Chinchua smiled when she saw Lan Bing arrive. All right, I won't disturb you two any longer. I'm going back to my room to rest. As soon as she left, Lan Bing immediately sat beside Ding Meng. You've been busy all day. Aren't you going to give me a massage? Ding Meng had no choice but to get up. He placed his hands on Lan Bing's shoulders and released a small amount of divine light energy. His smelting space was currently filled with the pure green and healthy energy created by AIG's cultivation technique. It had extremely powerful healing and restorative properties. Lan Bing closed her eyes and had a look of enjoyment on her face. Your energy is still the purest. She seemed to think of something and said, By the way, Miss Dai and Big Sister Lu Qing are about to return. The storm gathering is about to begin. You should prepare well. Ding Meng obviously misunderstood. In the past, he had thought that having 3 wives and 4 concubines was not bad, but now he knew how powerful a group of wives was. He couldn't afford to lose sight of one wife and lose sight of the other. Now, all 4 of his wives had to be shared equally. Strictly speaking, each wife had to obtain powerful and pure origin energy through him. From Ding Meng's angle, Lady Lan Bing's blouse was opened very low. The spring scenery underneath was really mesmerizing. Ding Meng simply picked Lan Bing up and walked directly to the bedroom. Lan Bing blushed. What are you doing? Ding Meng coughed dryly. Ahem, little Bing, it's getting late. Shouldn't we go to bed early? Lan Bing bashfully punched him. You bad guy. I knew you were up to no good. Let go of me. Chapter 899. Jun Ling was the first to return, but it was already half a month later. She didn't go to the Bingi building, but went straight to the Man Ro Research Institute. Now that there was a strong economic guarantee, the Research Institute's various facilities had been upgraded. They used the Federation's top-notch precision production lines and processors. When Ding Meng arrived, he saw Ding Wenhe holding an Aurora cutter gun and carefully polishing something on the workbench. Jun Ling was watching attentively from the side. Even the usually talkative Four Eyes and the Russian behind him were quiet. What's this? Ding Meng was interested. Ding Wenhe turned off the cutter gun, took off his low-light glasses, and picked up a sparkling short knife from the workbench. It was the standard cookery knife. However, This knife was still somewhat different from the others. The brilliance emitted by the blade seemed to be a twisted arc, and it gave people a feeling of extreme coldness. Good knife. Ding Ming snatched it away. Hey, what are you doing? This is my knife. Junling was anxious. Tisk. Ding Ming looked at the blade, his tone full of envy. Krypton, platinum, and titanium. Is this 1024 super alloy? Ding Wen laughed. Ding Ming, you can't tell just by looking at the material. Ding Ming wondered. Then what am I looking at? There's a power reactor inside, constructed with superconducting ore. Yao Manru appeared at the side door with a cup of coffee. This is a lightsaber. A lightsaber was an energy sword, but it wasn't an ordinary energy sword. Those that could be called lightsabers were all divine weapons. First of all, the material of the lightsaber was definitely rare. Second, the degree of refinement inside was extremely advanced and complex. It was like the railgun on a starship. It was energy produced by a reactor, but in the hands of a master, it was forged into the shape of a sword. True lightsabers were never mass-produced on the production line. Instead, they were polished bit by bit under the craftsmanship of craftsmen. A good lightsaber in the Federal Empire's major auctions would be worth at least 1 billion. Upon hearing that it was a lightsaber, Ding Ming's eyes lit up. Even Four-Eyed and Harry looked envious. However, Junling snatched it back and carefully caressed the sword body. His demeanor was as if he was caressing his own child. Yao Manru smiled and said, "This is something that when he and I tailor-made for Junling. It's for this wind cloud gathering." Ding Ming was anxious when he heard this. He turned to Ding Wenha and said, "Sister, give me one too." Junling said disdainfully, "Boss, do you really think that this thing can come out just because you say so? This time, I went to Beidou to help the Hubel's family get rid of 2 of their sworn enemies. Only then did their patriarch give me a batch of raw materials. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to snatch it." Ding Ming was speechless. Shouting and killing was your usual style. Are the materials that hard to get? Junling said, "Nonsense. I just want to make a name for myself in the wind cloud gathering. I heard that the prize pool has exceeded 10 trillion star coins. With money, I could buy better materials on Beidou." Ding Ming asked curiously, "Does the wind cloud gathering allow you to bring your own equipment?" "It is allowed," Yao Manru replied. "This rule has been in effect since the 8th session. You can bring your own equipment." Four-Eyed quickly said, "Then, isn't this unfair to the other contestants?" Ding Wen laughed. "It can't be considered unfair. You being able to get good equipment is also a part of your strength. If you can't get it, it only proves that you are inferior to the other contestants by a large margin." Ding Ming was a little depressed. He didn't have a suitable weapon right now, and he had returned the Divine Light Necklace to Jich and Xue. The rest of the Divine Light equipment was with Little Rascal. Ding Wenha explained, "Ding Ming, with your current strength, you don't actually need a weapon. Even if you did, we can't make one that matches your strength. At the very least, these platinum metals and krypton metals can't compare to the temperature of your origin energy, so you should prepare for battle with peace of mind." Ding Ming had no choice but to give up. In the end, he hadn't gone to chat with Long Feiyu and the others recently, so he didn't have any good materials. Naturally, he couldn't customize a weapon like Junling. After leaving the research facility, the group didn't return to the building. Instead, they went directly to the infirmary. Ding Ming, Junling, and Four-Eyed Mao were all unorthodox bumpkins, so they chatted more with Sleeman and Little Wei. There was less than half a month left until the carnival. Even in the remote outskirts of the Bingy group, the atmosphere of the event was already very thick. Many stores' crystal projectors were displaying advertisements for the Star Wars Storm Assembly. A few large screens had been erected in the empty space outside the infirmary, and they were filled with reports of the event. "Brother Ding, we've also signed up for the Storm Assembly. When the time comes, you have to take care of us." Four-Eyed winked at Ding Ming. Ding Ming was a little surprised. "You two have the qualifications?" According to Lan Bing's plan, Dai Yi, Lu Qing, and Junling would be representing the Bingy group in this year's Feng Yun gathering. Ding Ming had signed up as an individual, so there were only 4 of them. Dai, E, and the other two had a good image, which was very good for the promotion of the group. In addition, with the three of them, they could be said to be a very powerful group. As for the others, Liang Iran, Su Lingyue, Liang Yi, Su Xia, and Meng Yin, there was no need for them to participate. Including Lan Bing herself, too many people appearing in public would have the opposite effect. Four-Eyed smiled mysteriously. Brother Ding, we signed up in the name of the Green Arrow Corps. Sleeman led the group of refugees to Blue Pole Star City, but Gulaga returned to the Green Arrow headquarters. Four-Eyed took the initiative to sign up. It could be considered as representing Ding Meng to express his care for the Green Arrow. Four-Eyed Mao was also mysterious. Brother Ding, we'll follow you after we enter the server. Why don't we go in and meet first? Ding Meng was curious. There's a need to meet in the server? Four-Eyed explained, of course. There are more than 50 billion people who signed up now. The server is also divided into regions. If we all gather in one place, won't the server explode? So you participated in the Star Wars Carnival before? Ding Meng was even more curious. Four-Eyed immediately held his head high. Of course. At least I know some of the rules. What about your battle record? Ding Meng stared at him. Four-Eyed felt guilty under his stare. We didn't pass the preliminaries. Four-Eyed Mao immediately burst into laughter. At least I passed the preliminaries. Four-Eyed mumbled, you're not much better. You died in the first round. Go, go, go. Let's go back to the building. We'll familiarize ourselves with the terrain first. Ding Meng was a little impatient. At that moment, Dai, Yi, and Lu Qing appeared in Bingy Group's conference room. The big screen in the conference room showed the regional distribution of the Feng Yun Club. The two were clearly studying it. Seeing that Ding Meng had returned, Dai, Yi, and Lu Qing immediately ran over happily. Each of them held one of Ding Meng's arms. The three of them looked very intimate. Four-Eyed Mao and Four-Eyed Mao could only stare at each other. Brother Ding is Brother Ding. You can't be envious of this kind of thing. Jun Ling rolled her eyes at the two of them. Of all the things you can learn, why are you learning from him? Four-Eyed Mao could only put on a bitter face. Big sister, you don't understand. I once had a crush on a goddess. Maybe she'll also participate in the Feng Yun Club this time. Jun Ling was so angry that she laughed. Four-Eyed, with your character, I can't imagine what your goddess looks like. Four-Eyed Mao had to tell her about what happened in Meteor City back then. Jun Ling frowned. I have an impression of this Yen Jie you're talking about. I think I saw her when I went out this time. Ah. Four-Eyed Mao and Four-Eyed Mao were shocked at the same time. Jun Ling said, that Sky Wolf Corps' Yin Fengwei's daughter. There's a counselor's son in Blue Pole Star City who seems to be pursuing her. He helped the Sky Wolf Corps contract our transportation line. There's such a thing? Four-Eyed Mao was amused again. Jun Ling said disdainfully, look at you. Cheer up, okay? It's a good thing to have love rivals. Kill them all when you see them. Although she said that, her attention was on the big screen because it showed the panoramic area of the Star Wars Carnival. First of all, the fairy tale city that everyone saw on a login interface was the core city of the carnival, Star Wars City. Star Wars City was not a simple city. It was formed by 7 big cities. Each big city had a different style. The classic was the retro Chinese style. You could go to any big city you liked. This was the official way to stimulate the players to spend money. Every big city had countless villages and towns. After all, tens of billions of virtual images were gathered together. Without a large enough territory, it would not be able to accommodate them. The preliminary stage could be held at any designated location in any town. After that, the stage would be held in a separate virtual illusion server. The final battle between kings would be held in the Martial Arts Hall in the center of Star Wars City. I think we should meet at the Tulip Inn in the center of China City. Jun Ling made a decision. She also had her own reasons for choosing this place. Because China City was very lively, the screen indicated that the popularity of this area exceeded 150 billion points. This popularity did not only include the players who went to this area, but also the attention of the online audience who live broadcast on TV. 150 billion points was already a very lively area. Junling chose this area for no other purpose. She had been lonely for too long and really wanted to go to a crowded place to walk around. Dingming also agreed with this proposal. "And let's go in now." Dai immediately shook his arm. "Tomorrow. I just came back today and want to rest." Lu Qing also looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. "Yes, I also just came back today." "Dingming, I also want to have a good rest tonight." Dingming's eyelids drooped. "I think you guys don't want to rest, but want to absorb more essence from me before the Fengyan gathering." Fries could not help but sigh. "Brother Ding, it's really not easy." Mauzi said, "Why?" The four-eyed man said, "Don't you know what the saying is? Good car fuel, good fire, good carbon." Mauzi nodded his head like an old man. "Good food, good women, good men. There is no land that is plowed, only cows that are tired to death." Four Eyes laughed. "Back in the day, I was full of heroic spirit. I casually peed 3 feet in the wind." Ding Meng. Chapter 900. China City. This city was set up with the unique architecture of the Huaxia people. Although it was a simulated environment, the simulation of this virtual world was as high as 99%. What you saw, heard, and felt was almost exactly the same as the real world. The cost of the servers to maintain the operation of the Star Wars Carnival was not cheap. This year's event had a total of 160,000 large and small groups and sects sponsoring. Only by truly entering would one be able to have an intuitive and new understanding. The retro urban style, the bustling streets, and the gray flagstone roads seemed to bring people back to the ancient Jiangnan brothels of the human race. Dingming was also shuttling through the crowd on the streets. He discovered an interesting phenomenon. Because everyone who came in was a contestant, not only did everyone dress differently, but most of them also showed their real faces and deliberately showed the IDs above their heads. In fact, this mentality was very easy to understand. Because most people wanted to make a name for themselves in the storm gathering, the more people who knew their names and appearances, the better. The Tulip Inn was a super luxurious restaurant set up by the system. Its antique style was quite attractive because it was located by a large lake. Dining here allowed people to enjoy the scenery of the lake and mountains that could not be seen in the real world. Dingming saw Dai, Yi, and Lu Qing at the entrance of the inn from afar. The two of them directly showed their IDs above their heads. Bing, Dai, Yi, Bing, Yi, Lu Qing. They were also using their real names, but they added the name of their group in front. This was Lan Bing's request to increase their exposure. Of course, what really attracted passersby to stop and watch was their dressing. Dai had obviously bought the system's Chu Yoxiang chic folding fan ancient costume. She was dressed in snow-white clothes, holding a fan in her hand, and had light makeup on her face. She looked like a woman dressed as a man. The key was that her disguise was very realistic. It had both the charm and tenderness of a woman and the heroic spirit of a man. It was quite eye-catching. Lu Qing had changed her style of being a fashionable girl and was actually playing with ancient costumes. She was wearing a classic Qing dynasty suit, dignified and elegant. When she stood next to Dai, Yi, they complemented each other very well. They were astonishingly beautiful. Dingming also showed his ID and took the initiative to say, "I say, both of you spent at least tens of thousands of star coins on this set of clothes, right?" Dai, Yi, and Lu Qing covered their mouths and laughed when they saw him. "What are you laughing at?" Dingming was puzzled. His style was indeed unique. The buttons at the collar were fastened, but the buttons at the hem were not fastened. Sure enough, it was when I heard this gentleman's song just now. It aroused a ball of anger in my heart. No wonder it was called a ball of anger outfit. "Hubby, why don't you spend some money to buy some clothes?" Dai laughed so hard that he couldn't straighten his back. Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. "This is a set, okay?" Lu Qing also laughed out loud. "Judging by the visual, this is the cheapest set, right?" Ding Ming nodded honestly. 65 star coins. "Do you think that's not money?" The two of them were still laughing when a rough voice suddenly sounded from behind them. "Boss, sisters-in-law, I'm here." Dingming turned around and was shocked. Junling had sneaked behind the three of them without anyone noticing. Junling was dressed in a retro black outfit. Black shirt, black pants, black leggings, and a black scarf covered her face. She wore a yellowish-brown bamboo hat on her head, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. Her cookery knife was at her waist, giving her the image of a heroine in ancient costume. Her voice was also like a man's in a low, muffled voice. It's fine if you change your image, but why did your voice become a man's? Ding Meng couldn't help but ask. Junling's voice sounded like a drum beating. I'm trying to maintain a sense of mystery. Ding Meng looked up again and found that the ID above Junling's head was actually kneel before me. Awesome. Ding Meng almost knelt down. Normal people couldn't understand how a woman of steel's brain worked. This ID was for fighting, and it was number 1 in drawing aggro. Junling pointed across the street. I'm still okay here. Look at 4 eyes in them. In the distant stream of people, Ding Meng also noticed 4 eyes and Harry at a glance. To be honest, it was hard for him not to notice them. 4 Eyes was wearing a short-sleeved woodcutter outfit. Yes, it was definitely a set, but it was probably cheaper than Ding Meng's soy sauce outfit. The classic ID above his head, collapsing mountain. 4 Eyes held a cigarette in his mouth, looking like a 1,000-year-old smoker. His eyes narrowed from the smoke. Boss, we're here. If 4 Eyes still looked like a woodcutter, then Harry had no image at all because Harry didn't buy any clothes at all. He was wearing the system's default free clothing. A pair of grass leaf underpants, a pure tramp, and the awesome ID above his head. A dead horse. Out of all the contestants on the street, Harry was the only one who was naked. He smoked so much that half of the cigarette would be gone with one puff. He was definitely a 10,000-year-old smoker. Ding Meng's eyelids drooped. Image, Harry. Harry was also a little helpless. I'm out of money, boss. He asked curiously. Where's your money? I bought cigarettes. Harry handed a pack of cigarettes to Ding Meng. Boss, give me a smoke. This is a branded product. Ding Meng waved his hand decisively. Okay, everyone's here. Let's go in first. Before the wind and cloud gathering, the officials had to hold a grand opening ceremony. This ceremony was held in the Martial Arts Hall in the center of Star Wars City. All contestants were allowed to participate, and the whole process was broadcasted live through long-distance real-time transmission technology. Citizens of the Federal Empire who couldn't enter the virtual world could also watch the ceremony and all the matches online at home. Ding Meng and the others were watching the ceremony from the inn. All the advertisements, walls, and major venues in China had live broadcast screens and screens. Naturally, there would be big shots present at the carnival that was held once every 5 years. From the screen, one could clearly see that the 2 well-dressed male and female hosts were the first to appear. Ding Meng actually knew the male host as well. It was the big star who hosted the engagement ceremony in Flying Star City, Long Chi, who had been kicked into the water by Ding Meng. However, this guy was quite lucky. In recent years, his hosting had become more and more popular, so it was normal for him to be invited to the Star Wars Carnival. The female host was from the Empire. She was also a very famous celebrity in the entertainment industry called Yang Qian-er. Of course, after the 2 hosts went on stage, they mostly introduced the Star Wars League and the carnival's origins, so that those who were participating in this event for the first time would have a clear and intuitive understanding. This was not a grand event in the ordinary sense, but a big gathering of the whole nation. After introducing the development history of Star Wars, the male and female hosts began to introduce the special guests. The special guests of the previous carnival were quite important. They were the number 1 national goddess from the Norse Empire, Ji Qinxue, and the number 2 beauty from the Holy Grail Federation, Liu Xiaobing. They would jointly show off the mysterious gift of the Battle of the Kings. This was a very big highlight of the carnival, and it was also an existence that had explosive ratings. However, this year, Ji Qinxue did not appear on stage, and Liu Xiaobing from the Federation was replaced by Cheng Mengjia, who was ranked number 5. Ding Meng realized that at this moment, many people in the inn were booing. The reason was very simple. The 10th carnival was very memorable, but the officials did not invite the most important guests. At the same time, in the conference room of the Bingy building, Lan Bing and the others were also watching the live broadcast. Lan Bing even had the mood to tease Ji Qinshu. Don't you feel a little regretful that you did not receive an invitation to such an important event? Ji Qinshu smiled slightly. I've been a special guest for 3 carnivals, and I'm a little tired. This time, I can quietly be a spectator. Liang Yiran opened her mouth and said, "What about Ding Ming and the others?" Lan Bing explained, "I can't see them yet. Only after they pass the preliminaries will I be able to pay to activate the lockdown mode." The opening ceremony proceeded in an orderly manner, and the last item was for the important people to announce the start of the event. 3 people walked up the stage, and 2 of them were obviously husband and wife. They were the president of the Holy Grail Federation, Bai Xing Fei, and the president's wife, Rabik Somanza. Everyone had seen this president a lot on the news, but they still did not know much about the president himself. Liang Yiran explained, "President Bai Xing Fei has been in office for 45 years. He is the only president to be re-elected after the devouring World War, and his support in the Federation is very high." The president's wife, Somanza, is from the Rabik family, which is also one of the top sects in the Federation. This time, the Rabik family will definitely send experts to participate in the carnival. At this moment, on the other side of the stage, Chancellor Wenyang of the Norse Empire also walked up. Ji Qinshu sighed to herself. She had interacted with these 2 big shots before, but she still felt that Chancellor Wenyang was far more terrifying than President Bai Xing Fei. Of course, when one reached that level of power, none of them were easy to deal with. Under the invitation of the 2 hosts, the president and the chancellor shook hands amicably on the stage. This was a classic moment that only happened every 5 years, and it also meant that the frogmen of the Federal Empire would welcome a short period of peace. Then, the 2 big shots announced together, the 10th Galactic War International Carnival officially begins now. Fireworks bloomed in the sky above Galactic War City, and hundreds of birds flew in the sky. It was a joyous and festive scene. Now, the first round of preliminaries had begun at the various competition venues in the major cities. This round of preliminaries was actually the most tedious round. After all, there were more than 50 billion contestants, and every one of them had to be tested. For Ding Ming and the others, they could directly go to the nearest training hall or dojo for the preliminary test. There were dojos on 3 streets near the Tulip Inn. Ding Ming chose a dojo called Dragon Capital. In fact, the dojo was a virtual space set up by the system. After entering, there was an endless grassland. There was already a long line on the grassland, and the contestants were all waiting for the preliminary test. Before they could see what the test was like, there was a commotion at the back. Move, don't block the way." Ding Ming turned his head and saw a group of luxuriously dressed contestants walking forward with their heads held high. From their arrogant looks, it was obvious that they wanted to cut the line. The ID prefix above their heads was Dragon Capital. "Who are these guys?" Ding Ming asked. Dai Yi replied indifferently. "The Dragon Capital clan of Blue Pole Star City. It's a martial arts sect and is quite rich. It seems that they sponsored the carnival and got the naming rights of this dojo." In the past, Dai Yi might have been a little afraid when mentioning the name of this sect, but it was different now. His strength had increased by leaps and bounds, and his tone was also casual. Originally, Ding Ming and the others wanted to keep a low profile, but when this group of people passed by, they saw the almost naked and dusty Russian, so they laughed mercilessly. The Russian was instantly annoyed. "What are you laughing at? What's so funny?" Chapter 901. There were more than a dozen people from the Dragon Capital family. They were all relatively young men and women, but the young people in this carnival might not be young. Their appearance could be adjusted. A guy with the ID Dragon Capital, Dragon Sword, laughed sarcastically. "Where did this poor guy come from? You can't even afford clothes, and you still want to participate in the storm gathering? Are you King kidding me?" Seeing his friend being ridiculed, Farais couldn't help but say, "I'm King kidding." Do you think you can cut the line just because you have some stinky money to sponsor the competition? Dragon Sword, are you deaf and cheap? Go back. Four Eyes scolded, and no one could interrupt. Originally, the contestants around were a little disgusted with Dragon Capital's action of cutting the line. After Four Eyes scolded, some people started to jeer. Dragon Sword was also annoyed. Shut up. Where did this be asterisk star come from? How dare you behave so atrociously in front of our Dragon Capital? Mao Z shouted. F asterisk CKU. While the two sides were scolding each other, Ding Meng's gaze fell on a person in the group. This person was also dressed in retro clothing and looked calm. ID, Dragon Capital, Mr. Emptiness. Mr. Emptiness wasn't interested in bickering at first, but when he saw that Dai, E and Lu Qing were with Four Eyes, his eyes lit up. He didn't expect to meet a natural goddess in the preliminaries. So it's Miss Dai from the Dai family. Hello. Mr. Emptiness took the initiative to greet her. And Dai, he snorted. It could be considered a greeting. Dai family was not doing well in Blue Pole Star City in recent years. It was mainly because the marriage in Flying Star City was ruined. Their influence was not as strong as before. Even if it was not ruined, it could not be compared to Dragon Capital. Miss Dai, are you interested in joining us? I'll take you to the front. There's no need to queue. Mr. Emptiness sent out an invitation. Dai, he was too lazy to even look at him. Not interested. Dragon Sword was unhappy. Yo, you're quite arrogant. Isn't it just a second-hand girl whose engagement was broken? My young master Fei is calling you and you're still acting cool. Shut up. Jun Ling couldn't help it. Although she had the best relationship with Lu Qing, it didn't mean that she would allow outsiders to bully her sisters-in-law. When Jun Ling stood outside, he naturally had a kind of intimidating aura. One look and one would know that he was not to be trifled with. Ah, Jian, forget it. Mr. Emptiness waved his hand casually and gave Dai a meaningful look. Then, he led his group and left. Those bastards, the four-eyed man muttered. Don't meet me in the preliminaries. I'll make them piss their pants. Mousie was also very annoyed. That's right. The first person I'm going to deal with is this deaf B asterisk TCH. Mother of asterisk Kerr. He was just told to break off the engagement. What do you mean? Ding Meng was also a little uncomfortable. That long Jian's mouth full of shit was indeed annoying. Lu Qing hurriedly explained, Ding Meng, when you made trouble in the Flying Star City, not many people knew the truth. The Bai family is very prideful, so they didn't dare to go back and say that they were forced to leave by you. Instead, they spread the news everywhere in the Blue Pole Star City that it was them who broke off the engagement with my sister-in-law. At that time, my sister-in-law and Ani were in the Green Arrow base. So many people in the Blue Pole Star City believed it. Is there anyone from a Bai family participating this time? Ding Meng asked. The four-eyed man immediately smelled the murderous intent in Ding Meng's words and hurriedly replied, Yes, there are several people from the Bai family. That by non-how you taught a lesson in the past has come out again. Ding Meng said, Very good. It seems that I didn't humiliate them enough back then. After such an episode, everyone's happy mood was diluted a lot, but the preliminaries test area soon appeared in front of them. More than a dozen alloy boxing machines were placed on the lawn. All the contestants had to pass the preliminary test before they could enter the later stages of the tournament. This kind of boxing machine was different from a boxing machine. When Ding Meng was stranded in the Empire and recruited as a sparring partner, the boxing machine used for the test was a target. However, the machine used for this kind of competition was a cylindrical silver tempered drum placed horizontally on the ground. Its size was comparable to a flying car, and it could withstand a lot of speed and power. Many of the contestants whose numbers were called by the staff were already standing in front of the drum and punching with all their strength. The screen on the workbench next to them would calculate the score based on the strength, speed, position, and other comprehensive aspects. In fact, Ding Meng had an impression of this test. This was the pure strength score without using the origin. A beginner warrior would score 1,000 points, and a war venerable would score 10,000 points. The registration requirement was to be a war venerable. Therefore, at a glance, most of the contestant scores were between 20,000 and 50,000 points. Occasionally, there were a few scores between 80,000 and 90,000 points, and most of them were at the level of an intermediate or advanced war venerable. It was not that there were no high scores. A few burly men had scored more than 300,000 points. At present, the highest score shown on the screen was 2.56 million, which proved that the person had reached the level of an intermediate warlord. How many points do I need to enter the tournament? Ding Meng asked curiously. Lu Qing explained, there is no limit to the score. The passing standard is 20,000 points, and then you can participate in the tournament. However, if you're in the top 10 at this competition point, you can directly enter the next stage as a seeded contestant. You don't need to fight in the following tournament. After all, there's so many contestants. It will be very time-consuming to just wait and do nothing. Understood. Ding Meng nodded. Well, everyone, control your strength and make sure you are in the top 10. At this moment, the staff was already shouting, next, contestant number 20235950078, please get ready for the test. Immediately, a person swaggered into the middle of the lawn and came to the front of the boxing machine. This person was Dragon Capital's Dragon Sword, who had just fought with Four-Eyed. Hi, it's this guy. Mousy shouted. Can you do it? Scum. Dragon Sword glared at him. He didn't want to be distracted at this juncture. He took a lunge, shouted, and punched out fiercely. With a bang, he hit the drum. Ding, 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 ding. A series of crisp sounds rang out as the scoreboard on the holographic screen refreshed incessantly. Immediately, cries of surprise rang out from all around as the score finally stopped at 4.66 million points. This was already the highest score for this match point. Dragon Sword looked proud. You two bumpkins, learn from me. Wahaha. Four-Eyed and Mousy suddenly laughed strangely. You talk so big. I thought you were so king powerful. Dragon Sword glared and said, give me a high score if you have the ability. To be honest, these scores were not low in the preliminaries because it was rare for a sect in Blue Pole Star City to have so many champions. Next, contestant 323989777776, please get ready for the test, the staff shouted again. It's my turn. Lu Qing rubbed her fists and walked out. Take it easy, Ding Meng reminded her. According to the rules, although she couldn't operate the origin and use the divine light energy, Lu Qing was strong enough. Moreover, she had honed herself on the Flame Star for 3 years, so she hadn't fallen behind in the past few years. Lu Qing came to the front of the boxing machine and did not make any preparations. She gave a casual punch. Although she said it casually, most of the people around couldn't see her movements at all. They could only hear the sound of the score being recorded. In the end, the holographic scoreboard showed the result. Wow! The crowd suddenly exploded. This gorgeously dressed Princess Pearl actually managed to score a high score of 15.6 million inch. Awesome! The Four-Eyed Man and the Russian were immediately amused. They couldn't help but look at Dragon Sword opposite them. Trash! You don't even have a third of his score. With Lu Qing taking the lead, it was more standard. When it was her turn, she walked up leisurely. She didn't even throw a punch. Instead, she used her folding fan to knock on the drum. Her speed was so slow that everyone could see it clearly. After a series of rapid sounds, the scoreboard showed the result of 14.7 million inch, which naturally caused the audience to exclaim again and again. Misty, not bad. Mr. Emptiness slowly walked over and said meaningfully, unfortunately, your score is still not high enough. This kind of score can only be suppressed by me. His words were extremely frivolous and rude, but the Four-Eyed Man and the others didn't have time to refute because Mr. Emptiness shot out like an arrow. The boxing machine made a boom sound and began to calculate. It was that kind of speed that people couldn't see clearly. 21 million points. The staff took the initiative to report the score. It was obvious that he was very excited. An expert had appeared in his match point. Oh yeah, the people in Dragon Capital cheered, and the audience was even more surprised. Then there was a round of applause. Mr. Emptiness rushed back like a ghost with a smug look on his face. Misty, I wonder if you're free tonight? I would like to invite you to... I'm not free. He coldly interrupted him. I want to accompany my husband. Mr. Emptiness was a little embarrassed to be rejected in front of so many people. He couldn't help but ask, "Who's your husband?" "Of course it's me." Ding Meng smiled and walked onto the lawn. Mr. Emptiness looked at Ding Meng suspiciously. This guy didn't look like he was worth more than 100 galactic credits. How could someone wearing such tattered clothes be qualified to be Miss Dai's husband? He suspected that Ding Meng was a fake. Ding Meng stood in front of the boxing machine. His posture was a little strange. Everyone else was facing the drum, but he was facing away from the machine. He then raised his right hand, extended his index finger, and gently tapped on the drum. Ding, 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 ding. The sound of the score was so loud that it made people's scalps tingle. It rang for a full 10 seconds before it stopped. The staff was stunned. 99, 15 million points? The audience was dead silent. Everyone here was an origin ability user. Everyone understood that having a high score wasn't scary. What was exaggerated was that this guy could easily get close to 100 million points with just a tap of his finger. Was this guy the legendary Battle Saint? Ding Meng smiled softly and slowly returned to Dai's side. However, almost everyone looked at him with reverence in their eyes. Mr. Emptiness was also in a daze. After a long time, he woke up and carefully asked, "Referee, is there a problem with the machine?" "There's no problem." The person who answered him wasn't a staff member, but the incomparably cold Junling in black. Junling stared at Mr. Emptiness and coldly spat out 3 words, "Get lost." What followed was a series of walala sounds. No one saw how Junling made his move. They could only see that the huge boxing machine seemed to have been smashed by an invisible hammer. It turned into a mass of chaotic fragments in the air. A large amount of silver smoke spread out on the lawn. This situation was as if a missile from outer space had destroyed the boxing machine. The scene of the preliminaries was suddenly silent. Chapter 902. The preliminaries weren't broadcasted live, so there wasn't much news about it. In any case, not many people knew that Junling had destroyed the machine with one punch. However, everyone in Dragon City saw it clearly, especially Mr. Emptiness. This time, he was really empty and lonely. He no longer had any thoughts of flirting with girls. This Dai's husband and followers were all monsters among monsters. There was no need to think about it. They would definitely advance at this point. Sure enough, after a long 6-hour wait, the staff had already announced the top 10 rankings. Naturally, they would announce their serial numbers and not their IDs. Ding Meng's number 3239-898-6455 was impressively ranked second. Junling was first, and the system gave him a score of 100 million points. Because the maximum capacity of the boxing machine was 100 million points, the system assumed that he was first. At this point, the top 4 were Junling, Ding Meng, Lu Qing, and Dai Yi. They didn't meet anyone strong. As for Four Eyes and Harry, they could only fight in the arena. After the preliminaries ended, Ding Meng and the others went offline. However, Ding Meng didn't leave the induction cabin. This was because the carnival had an official virtual forum on the International Space Network. From the information provided by the forum, nearly half of the 50 billion contestants had been eliminated on the first day of the preliminaries. This number was very interesting. At least the immortal Yuan King and the Frogman leader could see that there were tens of billions of battle venerable level origin ability users in the Federal Empire. This was a very terrifying number. In other words, if the War of the Devouring World happened again, the Devouring World and the Frogman Kingdom wouldn't have much of a chance of winning. Among the tens of thousands of preliminaries in Star Wars City, almost all of the machines had been destroyed. This proved that there were thousands of Battle Sage level experts, which was very powerful. The second day schedule also started early in the morning. This stage was called the Path of Survival. According to the official explanation, a large number of contestants would be eliminated. The rules were very simple. Those who survived the stipulated 12 hours would be the winners. During this period, you had to avoid all attacks including those from other contestants. The path of survival began at 9 o'clock in the morning. All the contestants were teleported to the designated map. Everyone would be randomly given a weapon by the system. There were no restrictions on the use of the weapon. Ding Ming opened his eyes after he was teleported into the map. He felt like he was back on planet Madison. The terrain around him was a barren, grayish-black mountain. He seemed to be standing on top of a very tall mountain. Below the mountain were crisscrossing ravines, and in the distance was a stone plain. He raised his head and looked at the sky. The sky was bright. He could see with the naked eye that there was a golden star and a dark gray star on both sides of the sky. They occupied almost half of the sky. He was definitely on a brand new planet. However, what surprised Ding Ming the most was that he seemed to be the only one in this area. He could not see the other contestants at all. He seemed to have realized something. Could it be that the system determined each contestant's position based on their strength in the preliminaries? He opened his anti-gravity backpack to take a look. There was only a woman's photoelectric pistol inside. The system's default setting was unlimited energy. What the F***CK was the use of this? However, there were many system notifications in his field of vision. For example, there were 237 people outside the venue who had paid to watch his third-person view. This was equivalent to him being a live streamer, broadcasting the path of survival for everyone. It was obvious that these 237 people were the upper management and employees of the Bingy Group. He had not guessed wrongly. At this moment, Lan Bing and the others in the conference room were looking at him with joy. Ding Ming's luck is a little too good, isn't it? He was actually teleported to no man's land. Liang Iran was very happy. She and Du Mo had placed a huge bet on Ding Ming. Don't be happy too early. Based on my understanding of the officials, the Storm Gatherings competition has never been easy to pass. Ji Chinxue calmly explained, Ding Ming has been teleported to a place like this. It might not be safer than those places with more people. Lan Bing moved her screen, bringing up another lock camera. The screen displayed a different scene. In a lush forest, countless contestants were killing each other. Four Eyes and Mao Zi were squatting on a large tree, smoking. Below them, all sorts of contestants were killing each other. All sorts of source chi filled the air, and all sorts of martial skills flew about. The forest was filled with raging flames and billowing smoke. Stop F***ing around. Let's find a safe place to hide. Mao Zi felt a little guilty. Even though he was surrounded by shrimps, he still understood the principle that ants could kill an elephant if there were enough of them. Four Eyes, on the other hand, was having a good time. What are you panicking for? The most dangerous place is the safest place. Let's slowly watch the show. How many people do I have online? What? Only 32 people. Is it because I'm ugly? Mao Zi said. Then why don't we wait until the popularity reaches 100 before we leave? His two thoughts were exactly the same as Ding Ming's. How could a normal contestant threaten Ding Ming's safety? Ding Ming was thinking about how to increase the popularity of his company, so he had to take advantage of this paid live stream. But this place was desolate and uninhabited. How could he attract people's attention? After thinking for a moment, he decided to sing a song. Then, the first line he said made Lan Bing and the others burst out laughing. Along is tired, along is tired, along is tired, along is tired, along is tired. Lan Bing even spent some money to leave an anonymous message in his field of vision. What kind of nonsense song are you singing? Ding Ming refused to accept the fact that someone had left a message. He argued, this is a song. Liang Iran laughed. Is indeed a song. It's called Lonely. The line he sang was I'm lonely. I'm lonely. Lan Bing and Ji Chinxue were laughing so hard that they couldn't even straighten their backs. Ding Ming's singing was like a donkey's braying. Ding Ming was helpless. After sitting there for half an hour, he finally sensed that there were people halfway up the mountain behind him. Moreover, there was more than one aura. Ding Ming ran to the big rock behind him and looked around. His eyes immediately widened. This was a small team of more than 30 people. Although there were a few auras that were not bad, most of them were at the War Supreme level. What was amazing about this team was that they didn't seem to be fighting. This was because more than 30 people were surrounding a beautiful woman as they went up the mountain. This beautiful woman had the aura of a standard beginner wore supreme. She was dressed to the nines and wore a floral dress. She looked so weak that she couldn't even stand up to the wind. There were people supporting her as she went up the mountain. F*CK. Are you here to participate in the path of survival? The beautiful woman's ID was also lit up above her head. It was especially eye-catching. Hualien Entertainment. Vivian. Which entertainment company's star was this? Did they specially choose this place to do publicity? At this time, a bodyguard of a man in a suit had already rushed up the big rock. This guy impolitely pointed at Ding Meng's nose. Brat, don't say that I didn't warn you. Hurry up and get out of the way. Sister Wei is coming up soon. Don't stay in this place. Go and play around. Actually, this place was quite good. It was an open space on the top of the mountain. There were huge gray stones all around as cover. The field of vision was wide, and one could overlook a very far place. Although this bodyguard's attitude was impolite, he didn't directly make a move. Therefore, Ding Meng faintly said, "Oh." Of course, he was more curious about what this group of people was doing here. Soon, he saw that this group of people took out boxes of various sizes from their backpacks. They took out all kinds of equipment and built a simple stage. Then they took out all kinds of musical instruments. It seemed like they were going to hold a concert. Sure enough, Vivian stood on the stage and waved towards the vast gray plains with a microphone in her hand. Hello, dear friends. Today, I am fortunate enough to participate in the carnival. On this special day, I will dedicate a song to everyone, Ode to Joy. Ding Meng's eyes widened again. Why didn't I think of this F*King idea? Holding a concert here would increase the popularity. Since I was young, my parents told me that Huangmei opera was not easy to sing. I had to imitate the figure of an adult and realize my wish. When it comes to love, Feng Suzhen is my role model. The story of the female emperor's son-in-law accompanied me as I grew up. Where's my prince? Vivian was really singing and dancing on the stage. The atmosphere was very joyous. Ding Meng searched for Vivian's name on the control panel. Sure enough, there were 31,444 people in the audience. Compared to his own 237 people, they were not on the same level. Suddenly, Ding Meng felt a bit of heat. He turned around to look at the mountain peak behind him. The mountain peak was like a straight chimney. He did not know whether it was the mountain peak that was giving off heat or the atmosphere of Vivian's performance that made people feel warm. After Vivian sang 4 or 5 songs, Ding Meng suddenly realized that a large group of people had entered his popularity system. They were all leaving messages. Little brother, you were so lucky to be able to listen to the goddesses singing live. Brother, can you do me a favor and ask the goddess to sing a new song, The Legend of White Snake? What is your address book? I will transfer the money to you. I realize that the goddess looks more beautiful from the little brother's third-person perspective. Does anyone feel any pain? Pain? Did someone poke your A**? Mother of **, I will poke your father and your whole family. Ding Meng's view panel was also bustling with activity. However, his popularity had shot up to 889 people. He lowered his eyelids and did not say anything. He was silently trying to gain popularity. His behavior was probably noticed because the bodyguard came over to chase him away. Hey, didn't I tell you to leave? Why are you still here and not leaving? Ding Meng decided to take advantage of the situation. Big brother, this place is safe. Besides, the goddess sings very well. Can you let me listen to her? I'm the only one here. Can you do me a favor? The bullet screen on the vision interface was also filled with supportive voices. Yeah, let the little brother stay a little longer. He is the only audience here. Sister Wei is famous for spoiling her fans. Don't chase the little brother away. Let me check the little brother's ID. What is his serial number? Upstairs, the little brother's ID is poke your A**. You don't have a **. Your whole family doesn't have a **. Are you satisfied now? Perhaps the fans were too enthusiastic. The bodyguard did not make a move in the end. He resentfully retreated to the side of the stage, and the concert continued. At this time, another enthusiastic audience member left a comment on the bullet screen. Not good, not good. The army will arrive in 30 minutes. Everyone run. What are you talking about here for? What army? Stupid old man. I asked a few people to pay for the concert. The army is coming. If we don't run, we will die. Ding Ming's heart skipped a beat. He could use this live broadcast panel to collect information about other contestants and places. Chapter 903. Vivian was still singing passionately. After singing a few more songs, Ding Ming realized that his popularity had exceeded 1,000. However, at this moment, the stone floor beneath his feet trembled slightly. This kind of trembling was definitely not normal. After another 5 minutes, a buzzing sound rang out in the air. Upon closer inspection, it didn't seem to be coming from this area. Looking into the distance, a black line appeared on the horizon. The black line gradually grew larger and larger. Astonishingly, it was a crowd of players running in this direction. The crowd slowly turned into a flood. There were at least 400,000 to 500,000 people running for their lives. It was as if there was an enemy chasing after them. This scene caused the entire ground to tremble. When the flood completely covered the gray plains, Ding Ming finally saw clearly that there was an even larger dark blue flood trailing behind the crowd. It was like a huge wave on the sea, and it looked like it could crash down at any time and swallow people whole. Of course, it was not a real wave. It was a monstrous wave formed by countless huge flesh eaters. This was a world-devouring warrior monster. Each of them was equivalent to an origin energy master. How could a normal war reverend be a match for them? Moreover, looking at this number, if there were 400,000 to 500,000 contestants below, then the number of monsters was definitely more than 10 times that. They swept through the gray plains with an unstoppable force. As long as the contestants at the back were caught by the claws of the flesh eaters, they would immediately scream and disappear in a flash of white light. It was obvious that they had been eliminated. However, the white light continued to rise. It was like a carpet bombing. The white light of the explosion directly formed a light screen that was thousands of meters long. It was dazzling to the eye. This kind of scene was at most slightly larger for Ding Ming. However, for the normal audience and contestants, it was a shadow that would last forever. Oh my God, the world-devouring monsters are so scary. Damn, is the system crazy? It created so many virtual monsters. I'm scared to death, but little brother is so calm. Look at his sitting posture. Isn't he very relaxed? I found it. Little brother's ID is Crazy Explosion. Crazy and crazy. Is it the scene in front of us? 233333. The bullet screen was flooded with messages, but Ding Ming did not move. His popularity had increased to 2,000 people. Vivian's team was overjoyed when they saw this. How could they miss such a great opportunity to become famous? The bearded director waved his hand fiercely. Tomcat, quickly bring the 5 subwoofer cannons over. Tuner, increase the volume by 10 times for me. Sisterway, quickly prepare the next song. Vivian was also in high spirits. She sang to her heart's content as she faced the army below. Everything from the beginning to the end was beautiful. When I reveal my feelings, I was already filled with admiration. In the drizzle, you took me in and asked me how beautiful I was. I wanted to get to know you to express my admiration, but you pretended not to understand. As Vivian's voice became louder, Ding Ming felt the temperature around him start to rise again. The speed of the rise was very fast. It felt like the sound was causing the entire mountain to heat up. The world-devouring army's pursuit soon stopped at the ravine at the foot of the mountain. As there were many bottomless abysses in the ravine, it was very difficult for the world-devouring army to advance without a wormhole. Of course, tens of thousands of people had heard Vivian's singing and discovered this safe place. Countless people scrambled to climb up the mountain. The bearded director from Hualien Entertainment started again. Quick, turn up the volume and prepare the props. The next song is Slippery in the Dark, Slippery, Complicated Society. Damn, why is it so hot? Ding Ming still did not speak. He secretly thought that they would not die if they did not court death. Out of the 400,000 to 500,000 contestants, only tens of thousands of people had actually climbed up the mountain. The elimination rate of the Fengyun meet was indeed high. However, when everyone gathered at the top of the mountain, the entire mountain started to rumble again. Someone screamed, "The volcano is erupting! The volcano is erupting! Everyone run!" The chimney-like mountain suddenly emitted a loud bang. Then, a fiery red torrent rushed out from the inside. After soaring into the sky, it turned into a rain of fire and sprinkled down. Most people who came into contact with it were immediately surrounded by raging flames. Needless to say, they were sent flying away in a flash of light. Furthermore, this volcano eruption was very real. Not only did the rain of fire burn the sky, but a large area of mountain rocks also fell. Ash filled the air and visibility was almost zero. The remaining tens of thousands of people had finally escaped from the world-devouring army's monsters. Now, they encountered a volcano. For a moment, the mountain peak was in chaos. Ding Meng's mind was clear. Vivian's singing was the main culprit. Her high-pitched voice had spread out through the speakers, and it must have resonated with the mountain behind her, causing the volcano to erupt. This was definitely set up by the system. Who asked you to be pretentious and brainless? Now, a rain of fire would drown you. Of course, the live stream comments also exploded. F asterisk CK. F asterisk CK. I want to go home. The wind and cloud will scare people to death. People are dying everywhere. F asterisk CK. I can't see anything. Look at little brother, he's fine. F asterisk CK. Did we hit the jackpot? We accidentally locked onto an expert. Ding Meng had been sitting cross-legged in the same place. He quietly released his telekinesis and used the telekinesis wall to form a small space around the stage. Not only did this space isolate the fire, rain, and lime, but it was also completely buried under the volcanic ash and turned into a hidden cave. The people from Hualien Entertainment were not fools. When they saw this strange situation, they knew that this passerby was using a divine skill. Big brother. The bearded director trembled as he came over. Thank you. The bodyguard who had chased Ding Meng away was also scared out of his wits. Big brother, may I know your name? Vivian's beautiful face turned pale. Thank you so much. Crazy explosion. The livestream comments were even more chaotic. F asterisk CK, he's so awesome. He's still safe and sound. I'm really blind. I didn't see that crazy explosion was an expert. Call for help. Call for help. This number is the only one that's worth watching. For a moment, Ding Meng's popularity soared, from 2,106 to 48299. His popularity was even higher than Vivian's. Looking at the trend, it was only a matter of minutes before he broke through the 100,000 mark. After hiding in the cave for about half an hour, Ding Meng got up and left. When he went outside, he found that there was basically no one on the top of the mountain. To be precise, almost all of the 400,000 people were dead. The chimney mountain behind him had completely turned into a giant fiery red pillar of light. He slightly sensed that the surrounding temperature was as high as 2,000 degrees Celsius. This meant that Vivian and the others could only stay in the cave and hold their concert. They would immediately turn into ashes when they came out. This temperature could only be endured by people above the combat master level. Well, there's still a living person up there. A voice interrupted Ding Meng's senses. Turning his head, he saw 6 Hercules-type E battle armors flying toward him from the mountainside. Looking at their aggressive, flying posture, he knew that they were not coming with good intentions. The live broadcast began to say, "Little brother, run quickly. This group of people is not to be trifled with. They are the 7 Treasures Rangers." Perhaps these 40,000 people were Ding Meng's first batch of fans in the public eye of the Federal Empire. Otherwise, it could be said that the power of fans was very strong. Ding Meng could not help but ask, "What is the 7 Treasures Rangers?" The fans were immediately amused. Damn, the boss is indeed the boss. He doesn't ask about the people and directly describes them as things. Crazy bro, I have their paid camera. This 7 Treasures Rangers is the 21st club in the Star Wars League. They have participated in several Star Wars carnivals and hunted down other contestants every time. They rely on this to gain popularity. Crazy Bro killed them. The Star Wars carnival was a huge place, and there were really all kinds of birds. Back then, it was really difficult to deal with a Hercules armor. He almost lost his life on Cypress Planet. However, Ding Ming didn't want to expose his strength too early. He stood in place and didn't move. The 6 armors quickly rushed up and surrounded him. Hey, this kid is still alive. You should be quite capable, the leading battle armor said in a low, muffled voice. This kid doesn't look like much. Boss, let me do it, another battle armor said. Before the boss could answer, the other 4 battle armors immediately rushed forward. Don't worry, bro. Let me do it. I haven't started yet. Bro, why are you in such a hurry? Let me have a taste of this kid. What are you guys fighting for? I haven't even shown my weapon today. Then let's follow the old rules. Whoever wins goes first. Okay, 1, 2, 3, rock, paper, scissors. In order to kill Ding Ming, this group of people actually started to play rock, paper, scissors. Ding Ming was both annoyed and amused. Hey, you guys don't have to guess anymore. The 6 of them turned around in unison. Why? Ding Ming smiled and said, let's do it together. It'll save us the trouble. You're too arrogant, kid. You're courting death. The first person to attack was Bro. His drill-like iron fist came crashing down. Ding Ming's fans were amused again. Everyone experienced the thrill of riding the clouds because Ding Ming gently tiptoed and rose more than 20 meters into the air. It seemed that he was going to fly towards the chimney. Bro's fist missed, and the battle armor also flew up. The performance of this generation of Hercules battle armor was perfect. As Ding Ming rose, Bro followed up like a missile a few seconds later and threw another punch. Ding Ming suddenly dodged. Before Bro could react, Bro's vision blurred, and then his vision started to spin. The live broadcast comments were boiling. F*CK, that's awesome. That's an elbow punch. Did you guys see it clearly? Crazy boss elbow punch. What are you shouting for? Is that an elbow punch? It's obviously a knee punch. It's so damn fast. I can't even keep up with it. Crazy Bro is so strong. Is Crazy Bro stronger? Or is he stronger? The guy above has no balls. 666. The comments were still noisy, but the 6 people in the open space were dumbfounded because Ding Ming had slapped Bro back to his original spot. Perhaps this was the first time they had seen someone knock down a battle armor with a bare hand. Boss's voice changed. Tough guy. Brothers, let's kill that kid together. Chapter 904. The news of 6 Hercules suits besieging an unarmed origin ability user spread like wildfire. Lan Bing and the others in the conference room stared at the big screen. Ding Ming's popularity was skyrocketing. 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000. In less than 5 minutes, the number of Ding Ming's fans had exceeded 250,000. Liang Iran was amused. Don't kill them. Play with them slowly. This way, the live broadcast will be more effective and the popularity will increase. In fact, that was exactly what Ding Ming was doing. The 6 suits of armor were like 6 giants. At first, they surrounded Ding Ming, punching and kicking, but Ding Ming was like a slippery fish, dodging all the attacks from unbelievable angles. Then, the group of people pulled out their alloy shields and blades and slashed wildly. No matter how they attacked, Ding Ming would not be able to land a single hit on them. The group of people fought more and more fiercely. Some of the sharp-eyed fans had already noticed that Crazed Deranged was luring the group of people to move toward the chimney. The chimney was a light column made up of magma. No one knew how high the temperature was. Could it be that Crazed Deranged wanted to use the light column to fight back? The group of rangers had obviously noticed this too. Their boss sneered disdainfully. Idiot! Can Sheng Hao's armor be melted by magma? Don't worry. Let's slowly exhaust this kid. In fact, that was not Ding Ming's intention at all. What really attracted him was the top of the light pillar. There was a mysterious contestant clinging to the surface, almost becoming one with the magma. Even he almost misjudged it, mistakenly thinking that there was no one above. The power of the fans was indeed strong. Soon, he got some information. Boss, the contestant up there is called Cumin Chicken. She's a woman. According to the fans over there, she flew directly over. How did she fly over? By plane? Fly your ass. Where'd you get a plane these days? You'd be better off catching one yourself. Speak properly. Don't curse. Can you tell which of my words are cursing? The group of people soon reached the light column. In Ding Meng's perception, this was not pure magma. There must be other energy in it, but the temperature was already very high, almost 7,000 degrees. Ding Meng's heel stepped directly on the light column. His whole body miraculously moved backward along the light column. 7 treasures and the others also activated the jet system under their boots, flying all the way up to Ding Meng. This scene was quite thrilling. In the audience's view, they were now more than 2,000 meters above the ground. Those who were afraid of heights would definitely be scared out of their wits. Moreover, many of the audience were not used to Ding Meng's rapid movements. The frequency of his movements was too fast. Everyone felt dizzy and wanted to vomit. However, the more they vomited, the more they wanted to watch. The more they watched, the more they wanted to vomit. This was because the contestant called Cumin Chicken had more than 4 million popularity. She was obviously a big shot. However, now that they saw a crazed maniac moving backward on the light column, the fans over there were so angry that they started cursing. Crazed Maniac was clearly trying to divert the trouble. Not only was he strong, but his ability to ride on others' popularity was even better. Ding Meng's popularity was approaching the 1 million mark. In front of the live broadcast camera, Lan Bing turned her head and asked, Zhizong, generally speaking, how much popularity do you need to achieve to be considered a success? Ji Qinshui answered, in this stage of the competition, many people have not been eliminated yet. Therefore, the audience is divided. It's considered good to have more than 1 million popularity. At the end of this stage, those with more than 10 million popularity will be the #1 hot topic. There will definitely be sponsors coming to us. Naturally, we don't need sponsors. However, I think Ding Meng's thinking is quite right. There's no need to fight and kill now. Attracting popularity is the most important thing. This guy keeps saying that he doesn't know how to run a business, but I think he has a business mind. Liang Yuran also deeply agreed. Wait until the Storm Palace's peak competition stage. I think Ding Meng's popularity in the billions won't be a problem. At that time, we can advertise in front of his chest. As they talked, the light column at the center of the mountain became more and more lively. At this time, not only were the 6-7 Treasures Rangers fighting, but there were also many contestants flying over from all directions. Those who were able to survive until now were not ordinary origin ability users. With the central light column as the center, there were at least 400 to 500 people flying up and down and fighting each other. The battlefield was once again a mess. As for Ding Meng, he had already slipped away from the top of the mountain. You fight your battles, and I dodge mine. It must be known that this was a path to survival. The ultimate goal was to survive, and the business goal was to increase popularity. Ding Meng's fans not only did not dislike him slipping away, but they were also very satisfied. This was because following this little brother's third-person view was an eye-opener for them, especially when Ding Meng relied on his superb agility and high speed to fly up and down mountain. It was as if he was soaring, and it was simply too satisfying. At this time, the number of Ding Meng's fans had skyrocketed to 26 million. After about 2 hours, more and more people had gathered in this area. Another tens of thousands of people had gathered. Among these 70,000 to 80,000 people, there were no war saints or war masters. They were all at least warlords. Ding Meng, on the other hand, slipped to the gully area on the ground. The terrain here was very strange and complicated. The surface of the ground was like layers of hills stacked together. Of course, they were all gray stone mountains. There were many thick cracks on the ground, and the ground was densely packed with strange stone tunnels. There were even sinkholes and abysses in between. Ding Meng found a rocky mountain with strange rocks and hid in the stone forest to watch the show. As an expert who had rich experience with maps in outer space, Ding Ming knew the design of this kind of map. Every scene one saw had a deep meaning, and it was not as simple as it looked with the naked eye. Sure enough, just as the contestants were in full swing, a strange hissing sound came from the sky. Almost everyone raised their heads to look at the sky, only to see a tiny black dot appear. Everyone had experience and knew that this was definitely some kind of flying unit. The black dot gradually grew bigger and bigger. It was indeed a starship, but the shape of this starship was like a scorpion baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Its whole body was dark gray, and its color was exactly the same as the star on the west side of the sky. It was impossible to tell what material the starship was made of. Ding Ming even communicated with his fans with interest. It's neither metal nor biotechnology. This kind of starship should be a product of outer space. It doesn't belong to our world. The fans' reaction was also very enthusiastic. Boss, you're right. I'm from the Cambrian department of Crow Institute of Technology. This thing is neither from our federal empire, nor does it belong to the Swallowing Frogman Kingdom. The surface material doesn't look like the metal of the steel main empire either. Crow Institute of Technology? Why haven't I heard of it before? Is it a diploma mill? There's a new college in the beauty department, and it's called a diploma mill. Yes, this is real. There's a small dance hall next to it. Salsa dancing can be done there. Salsa dancing? What the hell is that? You can dance 3 songs for 20 yuan. You know, I'm young. I don't understand. This post is being led astray again. You're awesome. Plus, at this moment, the Scorpion starship was hovering in midair, and the light beam on the top of the mountain was slowly distorted, as if it was attracted by an invisible gravitational force. The tip of the light beam gradually evaporated into thin strands of atomized energy, and the fiery red energy all gathered towards the bottom of the Scorpion starship. An awesome scene appeared. After the starship had absorbed a huge amount of energy, its size had expanded by dozens of times in just a few minutes. It was no longer as simple as a scorpion. It was like a freakish behemoth from ancient times. It directly occupied more than half of the sky, and even the light had dimmed. Oh my God, it's so scary. Oh my God. I really want to go home. Wow. Oh my God. Run. The live broadcast bullet screen was filled with exclamations. In fact, there were already many contestants who reacted quickly and fled. The super mothership hovering in the sky was definitely not something to be trifled with. After absorbing the energy of the huge light beam, the scorpion's spiked tail suddenly shot a white ball of light into the sky. The ball of light flew halfway and exploded with a bang, turning into countless specks of light that scattered down. The intensity of this explosion was dozens of times greater than the volcanic rain from before. It was comparable to a dense drizzle. These raindrops directly covered the entire mountain range. When each raindrop hit the ground, it immediately turned into a light beam, followed by a violent rumbling explosion. The whole mountain was filled with light beams, and everywhere was exploding. This was like rain falling on the surface of a lake, creating ripples. The shape of the lake itself was no longer visible, and the whole world was a vast expanse of whiteness. In this kind of super explosion, almost no one could escape. Ding Ming saw very clearly that 7 Treasures Hercules armor turned into molten steel on the spot in the white light. As for the soldiers inside, there was no doubt that they had turned into light beams and returned to Star Wars City to report. This explosion lasted for a full 5 minutes before it stopped. The whole mountain was flattened, which was enough to show the amazing power of the explosion. However, there were still some contestants who escaped down the mountain. About 2,000 to 3,000 people spread their legs and ran towards the open ash plain in the distance. Crazy boss, why didn't you run? Some fans asked. Ding Ming sneered to himself. It would be strange if he could run away. It would be strange if this map didn't kill everyone. It seemed that if he didn't use 1 or 2 of his trump cards, he wouldn't be able to pass the second stage of the competition. His judgment had always been correct. After the first round of super bombardment, the soul-stirring tail of the scorpion gathered a cluster of energy in the shape of a white ball. It was exactly the same as the collective charging of the particle laser turrets on the starships of human beings. With a loud bang, the scorpion starship's tail suddenly shot a golden ray towards the ground. From Ding Meng's position, the ray was as thick as a finger. It could be imagined that the ray's real diameter was at least in units of 10 meters. Halfway through, the ray split into three, like a trident cutting into the horizon, sizzling and burning the ground. Boom! The sound of the ground exploding sounded like a single explosion, but in fact, it was caused by the high frequency of the explosion. Not to mention the scale of the explosion, just the flying sand and gravel on the ground alone reached a height of 40 to 50 meters. It was like the waves of the sea, each higher than the last. The three rays of light cut a distance of 1,000 meters, completely covering the entire gray plains. No one would be able to escape from a sweep of this degree. Chapter 905. Bang! The Scorpion starship's beam was like a brush in the eyes of the audience. As long as it swept across the gray plains, all the contestants it encountered would turn into white light and disappear. Seeing that the beam was getting closer and closer, Ding Meng secretly activated his first origin and activated his diamond shield with a clang. It was not that no one in front of him had activated their shields, but those shields were really too weak. Before the beam could even get close, the shield shattered like eggshells. Ding Meng's diamond shield was particularly eye-catching. As soon as it was activated, the surface of the shield was covered in dense and mysterious runes, and its shape was also exquisite. With another bang, the fan's vision turned white, because Ding Meng was completely enveloped by the huge beam of light, and they did not know if he could withstand it. Although their vision had been filled with strong white light, the camera did not move, which meant that at least Ding Meng did not turn into light and die. Millions of fans secretly broke out in a cold sweat. Can Crazy Boss withstand it? Is that guy from the Crow Institute of Technology still there? Come out and analyze it. Analyze my ass. You can't even use such a huge energy formula. Are you stupid? You're already in this state, and you still want to use a formula? What's salary? My salary this month is over 3,000. Damn it, me too. I have a salary of 3,000 a month, and I love to worry about these experts. You experts are really 666. The Scorpion starship's beam sweep lasted for a full 15 minutes this time. When the beam was retracted and the smoke dispersed, the whole ground was in ruins. To be precise, the map had been completely razed to the ground. However, the live broadcast was full of joy because Ding Meng was standing on the ground, perfectly fine. His diamond shield had withstood the attack of the huge beam. In fact, this was the refracting railgun of a medium-sized starship. With Ding Meng's strength, it was no problem for him to withstand it. However, the other contestants were just unlucky, and almost all of them were wiped out. The system's voice: congratulations to contestants 3239, 898, 6455, 994866632, and 1014, 444, 1320 for passing the path of survival and advancing to the next stage. They will be teleported back to Star Wars City in 60 seconds. Ding Meng had long noticed that when he was blocking the beam, two powerful origin ability users had appeared in the distance on his left and right. This map clearly had real experts on it. Now that he looked around, he finally saw these two people clearly. On the ruins on his left, there was a man wearing Steel Legion armor, and on the flat ground on his right, there was a long-haired beauty. These two were like him, and they did not reveal their IDs. Obviously, they were low-key people. This situation was naturally the time for the fans of the three teams to show their true strength. Unfortunately, 1 minute was too short, and he could not dig out too much information. The three contestants could only remember each other's unique IDs: Crazy Explosion, Guan Yiwei, and Misty. After being teleported back to China City, Ding Meng found that he was in the first batch of contestants to advance. The screen in Tulip and could also be used to watch the other matches randomly. The scene of each map was different, and the difficulty was naturally different. After watching for a while, Ding Meng felt that the map he was in was one of the most difficult maps. Out of 500,000 to 600,000 contestants, only 3 people advanced. This elimination rate was as high as 99%. No wonder the officials said that most people would be eliminated. After patiently waiting for a few hours, Dai, Yi, and the others were also teleported back. Everyone in Bingy Group had successfully advanced. Among them, Dai Yi's popularity was the highest, with more than 9 million fans. In fact, this was very easy to understand. With the beauty of a goddess, her ability to gain fans was definitely stronger than the male contestants. Next was Lu Qing, with a fan club of 5 million. Jun Ling gained 3.8 million fans, and Ding Meng had 1.98 million fans. However, what made him unhappy was that the number of fans of 4i and Mao Zi were higher than his. 4i had 2.5 million fans, while Mao Zi had 2.55 million fans. The two of them had never fought from the beginning to the end of Road to Survival. Hua Zi, on the other hand, had drawn 2.5 packs, which directly amused the audience. After exiting the Star Wars Carnival system, the final results of the competition were only announced at 10 o'clock at night. Out of the 26 billion contestants, only 96 million made it to the next round. This was equivalent to eliminating all the contestants below the warlord level. In other words, those who tried to become famous overnight would never have the chance to show their faces again. For example, Vivian, who held a concert. After returning to the president's office of Bingy Group, Ding Meng found that Lan Bing and the others were holding their wristwatches and talking nonstop. Moreover, they talked for a full half an hour. So busy, Ding Meng was curious. Liang Yiran finally turned off her wristwatch and could not help but laugh. Ding Meng, congratulations on advancing. The company's communication station almost exploded with calls. Many of these calls are from acquaintances seeking cooperation. Cooperation? Ding Meng's eyes lit up. Is it because of me? Obviously not. Lan Bing glanced at Dai. Your performance is still the best. Dai, he was also curious. Sister Bing, is there any good news? It had to be good news. She and Lu Qing's IDs had the prefix Bingy. In addition, their immortal looks had attracted countless fans on Road to Survival. Therefore, many sponsors had heard about the existence of Bingy Group and called to seek cooperation in advertising. Ding Meng's eyelids drooped, and he did not speak. He was rather depressed. It seemed that he was not famous enough. Even 4i and Mao Zi were more capable than him. During the Road to Survival stage, 4i and Mao Zi had also revealed their IDs. Observant fans immediately recognized the true meaning of collapsing Hongshan and a dead horse. In addition, the two of them had been smoking nonstop. On a live broadcast, there was actually a representative of a cigarette manufacturer who left a message saying that they could seek cooperation in advertising. There are really cigarette sellers looking for you? Lu Qing expressed her surprise. Of course. 4i was proud. It's just that the names of those two brands are not very nice. Sister Qing, do you want to consider endorsing them? What brands? Jun Ling asked suspiciously. 4i said, one brand is called Cuddling Yellow Drink. The other is called Force One. Jun Ling was immediately dissatisfied. You two are not allowed to endorse such vulgar names. Mao Zi wished he could kick 4i out of the Bingy building. You uncultured thing. What Cuddling Yellow Drink? That's called Yellow Crane Tower. Force One? Hee hee. I think you've been single for too long. Have you gone crazy? That's called Force One, you idiot. 4i laughed foolishly and scratched his head. Hee hee, sorry. My eyes were misty at the time. I didn't see the subtitles clearly. Mao Zi kicked him in the butt. This move again. Everyone burst into laughter. Ji Chinxua laughed. Ding Meng, your ability to attract fans still needs to be strengthened. You can consider changing your image for the next stage of the competition. Ding Meng's appearance was indeed not eye-catching. This was a failure. Junling did not show her face throughout the competition today. Her cold image of a heroine dressed in black was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Her fans gave her a nickname, Neil's sister. It meant that no matter who you were, you had to kneel when you saw this sister. Ji Qinshui explained, tomorrow's competition mode is also used in the previous season. You can form a team to participate. However, I suggest that Ding Ming continue to act alone. If you pass this stage, you can participate as a member of the Bingy group. Ding Ming said, is that need for speed or whatever it is that tests teamwork? Ji Qinshui said, this stage is basically the time for the big corporations and sects to show their faces. You can study the rules later. The officials should release a competition guide before the competition. The so-called amazing race was the simplest of all the competition modes. There was only one rule, and that was to set off from the location designated by the system and reach the designated destination as quickly as possible. The time limit was 3 hours. Zhengxing, Ma Renjia, Zhengxing, Shirley Tsong Wang, Zhengxing, Huazigu, Zhengxing, Zhujiu Shanjin, Zhengxing, Nantian Kaf, Zhengxing, Jianglin. Although their names were a little old-fashioned, the 6 of them were handsome men and beautiful women. Each of them was refined and elegant. They stood on the beach and chatted cheerfully, giving off an aura of confidence. To be able to meet the contestants of a major corporation in the second stage, this was indeed a great opportunity. The other contestants looked at the 6 of them with envy, but Ding Ming's telekinetic vision didn't look like that. The strength of these 6 people was just so. They definitely weren't the top contestants of Zhengxing Corporation. In fact, what really caught Ding Ming's attention was the few people on the other side of the beach, because he finally saw 2 familiar faces. Their IDs were Shag Gu Night Owl. They were the captains of the 2 scouting teams that he met before the battle of the water droplet on Planet Thorn. They were also the leaders of the famous bounty hunters on the Darknet. Bounty hunters were far more likely to appear on this map than players from a major corporation. Shag Gu and Night Owl were surrounding another burly man. It seemed that this burly man was the leader, and his ID was Jean Fan. The 3 of them also had one thing in common, and that was that they were fully armed. They were wearing all kinds of anti-gravity backpacks, metal equipment, and unknown equipment. It was normal for fans not to recognize them, but Ding Ming could tell at a glance that these 3 guys were experienced explorers. In addition to these people, there was another person who caught Ding Ming's attention at the northeast corner of the airport apron. This person's ID was Immortal Journey Back Dream. She was wearing a pure white robe that resembled a Taoist robe. She stood alone on the beach, her white robe fluttering in the wind, making her look like a fairy. Her appearance must have been altered, and it was not her real face. She cannot be considered pretty, but she was not ugly either. However, her temperament, her charm, and her bearing made people feel that she was holy and beautiful, and that was why they admired her. His past experience and strong intuition told Ding Ming that this was definitely not an ordinary player. She either had a prominent identity or she had extraordinary strength. Because Immortal Journey Back Dream did not use any origin energy at all, and her control of her aura was very precise, she was most likely a top player. Ding Ming could not help but laugh. Haha, looks like this stage of the speedy advance is going to be interesting. What he meant was that this stage would definitely be interesting, but the fans misunderstood him. Boss is saying that it's going to be interesting. That means he's going to show off his skills. That's right. Little bro didn't do much in the last round. When he did, we didn't see anything. Is crazy boss the kind that uses Duong as soon as he makes a move? What do you mean by Duong? It's called dang 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 dang. What do you mean by dang dang dang? Dang dang dang. Even though you're looking at me with sincerity, you still have to tell me that you want it. It's impossible that I won't give it to you if you say that you want it, but I'll give it to you if you say that you don't want it. Everyone has to be reasonable. F***ck you wrong. Upstairs 666666. Amidst the noisy laughter of the fans, the countdown timer appeared in everyone's field of vision. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. When the countdown timer showed that the match had begun, most of the people in the audience didn't move. They were still bragging on the tarmac. Of course, there were a few people who moved like arrows. There was a player called Flying Underground who met the expectations of the fans. He quickly took out a Warframe box from his anti-gravity backpack and armed himself from head to toe. This was a very popular Warframe called Moonlight Warframe on the market, and it had a very good flying speed. Crystal flames spewed out from the soles of the battle armor and the back of the battle armor. His goal was very clear. He flew directly to the Holy Mountain. Seeing this scene, many fans were a little dumbfounded. Damn, this Flying Underground guy is very sneaky. He's so well prepared, using the battle armor to fly. This move is very clever. Night Owl on the beach sneered. He's rushing to his death. Shag Gu also nodded. Yes, the faster you run, the faster you die. The Moonlight battle armor lived up to its name. It really was like a stream of light rushing to the top of the mountain. However, after flying for a short distance, two cross-shaped cracks suddenly appeared in the sky. Two fiery red rays shot out like lightning and accurately hit the battle armor. Flying Underground was clearly prepared. He immediately activated the energy shield on his armor and forcefully flew forward while enduring the attack of the laser beam. The spherical blue shield was strong enough to withstand the laser beam, and it flashed wildly with white light from the scorching heat. However, Sir System wasn't done so easily. As the battle armor flew to the sky above the lake at the foot of the mountain, the color of the rays changed from fiery red to dark blue. Those with experience could tell that the energy of the rays was at least a few levels higher. Bang! The blue energy shield was vaporized on the spot. The rays burned directly on the alloy surface of the battle armor. In less than 5 seconds, the battle armor exploded with a boom. Metal shards scattered in the air, shining so brightly that it made people dizzy. Flying Underground reacted quickly. He quickly ejected from the cockpit and shot out a metal wire from his hand. He stuck his head out and hung on a big tree by the lake. His intention was obvious. She's also a famous person in your Holy Grail Federation. Even armor would be bitten to pieces in the blink of an eye. It would be extremely difficult to cross this river. However, this was not a problem for Ding Ming. He was still grateful for the friendly reminder of this player. After all, at this stage of the competition, if you didn't have heaven-defying strength, you shouldn't try to force your way through alone. That would be suicide. It was best if everyone worked together to get through this difficult situation. About an idea, someone in the crowd suddenly said. Ding Ming turned his head to look. This person was the handsome guy from Zhongxing Corporation, Shi Song Wang. Brother, your name is a little cool. Shi Song Wang's idea was to use Zhongxing's group to drag out long crystal carrying matrices from their backpacks and assemble them into a boat that was about 5 meters tall. The people would hide in the concave space and use the sides of the boat to block the shark's attacks. This idea was a little old-fashioned, but many people had already figured out the key to it. The crystal-carrying matrices were made of platinum metals and were not easy to penetrate. They were thick enough to withstand the shark's attacks. Even if they couldn't withstand the attacks for a long time, they could still hold on for a while. Even if they couldn't hold on for the entire journey, they could still use their shields to block the attacks for a while. But here was the problem. There were still more than 100 people left, and the combined boat could only carry about 30 to 50 people. It was unknown if it could even make it back. After figuring this out, many people rushed to raise their hands. Brother Shi Song, take me along? I'm from Juye's family. So what if you're from Juye's family? If I have money, I'll definitely transfer it to you offline. Brother Shi Song, take me. Enough talk. I'll pay 10,000 star coins. Take me. I'll pay 50,000. I'll pay 100,000. This group of idiots actually started shouting like fans and even took the initiative to bid. Song Wong said seriously, "We didn't bid. You guys are the ones who wanted to bid." Someone immediately replied, "Yes, yes, yes. It's our own idea. We won't tarnish Zhengxing's reputation." Song Wong beamed with joy. Then the highest bidder wins. 120,000, 150,000, 180,000, 200,000. Ding Meng's horizons were broadened. The price of the boat tickets was actually raised to 300,000 star coins per ticket. This was really King awesome. Song Wong's group had already earned tens of millions of star coins on this trip. Why are you guys participating in the Year of Jiohua? You guys should change careers and become boatmen. But then again, these contestants were quite quick-witted.